We're all fired up this morning. All right, it's a good start. Just hitting the button. We already got 4 people in the chat.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we got Hoggy and Sling Ranger so far, but that's pretty cool.
Augie, what's up, man?
So I was watching your video there yesterday, and you were shooting those speed shooting with the. I was asking you about the high style pouches, and you were saying you just use the regular microfiber pouch.
Yeah, I was using like one of those. So Simple Shots had for a while like two sizes of the microfiber. They had like the big ones that are like for like I don't know 1/2 inch steel or something, and then they had the ones that are more for like 3/8 or 5/16.
Oh, cool.
And I was using the smaller size one. But it's not. They're not super stiff, but it's a little bit more stiff than like the microfiber that I'm used to. But they're real wide and kind of long. Actually, the big ones would probably work even better because they're even bigger. They're even wider. They tend to be stiffer.
Yeah, I was thinking about giving it a try. I ordered some of those high style pouches, and when I realized how small they were, I completely lost my confidence. I was like, "Oh man, I don't know about this." It seems too small for like a 3/8 steel because I got
Yeah,
the ones for like 8 mil,
yeah,
and then when I saw them, I'm like, "Ooh, buddy, like one little mistake, and I'm eating that in the hand. I don't know if I want to do
yeah,
this or
yeah,
not." You know,
yeah.
I
They
figured I
have
was going
the.
to start with clays.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I figured I was going to start with clays, but the clays were too big.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like,
The high styles made for like they're extra skinny, so they're made for like grabbing the ball.
yeah.
I wasn't doing that. So I was just holding the ball in the pouch and then pinching it with my thumb and middle finger and then shooting like that.
Mm.
So I was
Yeah.
like letting it go with my thumb and middle finger.
And I think the requirement, like you were saying in your video, is you only have to hit 10, right? Is that the deal?
At the East Coast tournament, there's only 10 cans. So you got to hit 10 in a minute.
So
Um,
if let's say, for example, I hit 10 in 55 minutes, but you hit 10 in 30 seconds, does that still make you a leader? Like, does the time count or?
no,
No, eh?
it's just for points. So how they do it is they have 10 cans on a rail, and the rail's about 3 feet high, and then your time starts when you release the first shot. So somebody's there with a stopwatch. When you release, they start. So by the time you release that first shot and you have all day to line it up, you should hit the first shot. So really, you only have to shoot 9 cans in a minute.
Oh, wow. That's true.
Because
The clock
your
starts on the
first shot is freebie.
Yeah.
So the way I figured it out is I'm thinking to myself, if I have to hit 9 cans in a minute and it takes me 5 seconds per shot, that's only 45 seconds. And I have 2 or 3 shots that I can miss. And as long as I'm pacing at about 5 seconds per shot, you should be able to do it. And anybody who, I shouldn't say anybody, but half the people there, 75% of the people there can hit a can 10 times in a row from 10 meters if there's no pressure.
Yeah.
Whether or not they can do it in a minute is a different story, but so many people freak out because of the time constraint, but they have time. You have time. So
Just got to budget it well, I guess, right? That's the name of the
yeah,
game.
it's more about hitting the individual cans. And then how they score it is the first 5 cans that you hit, you can hit them in any order, but the first 5 cans that you hit are worth 1 point each. Once you hit your 6th can, you get 2 points. 7th can is 2 points. The 8th can is 3 points. The 9th can is 3 points. But the 10th can is worth 10 points.
Ooh.
So you really want that 10th can.
Yeah, it's very important. You miss one and you're pretty much screwed.
Yeah, I mean, if you set yourself a pace for about 5 seconds per shot, you have about 11 or 12 shots to take in a minute.
Oh, the strategy.
So just hit the can.
Good morning, Robert. Hoggy. What else we got going on in here? Sling and Ranger made it. he's been trying to get onto these chats for a while and keeps on missing them. Brent. Al, how's it going, buddy?
The Bears. The Bears.
The Bears. Yeah, it was a pretty cool. It was a pretty cool thing. I was watching. Who was it that I was watching that was shooting those crazy? Andy Lowe. The guy's just
Yeah.
got this. It's like a machine gun. That dude.
Yeah.
He's like a machine. He's got. I mean, if all he's got to do is hit 10 cans, he could probably slow down like 50% and still have plenty of time. You know
Yeah.
how fast he
Yeah.
shoots.
Once you set that pace that you have, it's about like, just finding your spot. So find your pace, then hit the can. But there were people all over the place last year. Like the point system only works out to 10 cans. So it doesn't matter if it takes you 30 seconds or it takes you 59 seconds. If you can hit them all, you hit them all.
Yeah.
But there were people last year who, like, I think are top 10 shooters who got, 6 cans or 7 cans, maybe less. And it just is it's the pressure. It's the time constraint. They start spraying and praying, and it doesn't work like that. Yeah.
the pressure gets to them, man.
Yeah.
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 I've always found that. I mean, got my kid running around. We used to compete in the backyard, shooting at cans or whatever it is, and he would be jumping around me and making stupid noises in my ear, or burping at me, or doing something, anything he could try to throw me off. It didn't bother me at all. But every time I go live and I start shooting, it's funny because I'm just shooting. I don't really. It's not there's no stakes. I'm not worried about competition, winning or losing. But constantly being a reminder of the camera, sometimes even just that's enough to make things a little worse than normal. I'm sure you probably shoot better when you don't have to worry about the camera or anything around you.
Yeah, 10 times better. I mean,
Yeah.
we're all the champs in our own backyard, so.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%.
Morning, everyone. I'm still trying to watch the chat here. Squatch, Leon, what's up, Robert? Someone named Hellcats suck. What's going on? Yeah, I was okay. So speaking of videos recently, I actually watched the one that you had put out about moving the bands on the fork.
Yep.
Have you experimented with trying to put bands all the way to one side, so you put it all the way to the inside on one fork, all the way to the outside on another?
Oh no, I haven't tried that yet. But I'm assuming it's not going to make any difference because when we're like you're basically talking like, say if your fork tips are here, you're taking both your bands just kind of, so one's going to be at the bottom and one's going to be at the end. Yeah, I don't think it's going to make a difference from what I've been testing out. And like I did this whole thing like 3 times to make sure I was not BSing here, But I went out and I shot it, and I was like, oh man, I wonder what happens if I put them on the inside. And I heard people asking me these questions, and I originally thought right away it's going to behave like a smaller frame. It's going to shoot high. Bullseye. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. There's something here. But then I realized you're shooting off of your fork. Your fork width is not changing, so your reference point is going to be the same height in relation to your anchor point. That should be the same every time. Now,
Yeah.
for long draw shooters, I don't see that making a difference. I mean, I might be different because I think long draw you tend to look off the bands instead of off the fork tip. That might make a difference, but definitely from what I've tested, shooting outside, if I put them all the way in, all the way out, I'm assuming that up and down would be the same thing too. I don't know, but that's only for a frame that's point on. So I'm anchored. I'm looking down my bands. Where my reference point is touching, I hit. That's for those frames. If you're gap shooting, it should react the same. Like if I went to a smaller fork width, it should react the same wherever I put my bands. But I will say this though, it kind of does mess with your head a little bit when you're looking at the bands all the way in. It doesn't look right, and your brain kind of freaks out a little bit, like, hey, there's something wrong with my bands. But but I just stopped focusing on that and just started focusing only on the fork tip, and I just kept on drilling it right in the bullseye. So
Yeah. I would think that it might make a difference because of the angle. So you're shifting the angle down. It's like the ball wants to travel down the middle of the forks, but if
Yeah.
you shifted the angle, it might the new trajectory of the ball might be lower. But
Yeah, that's true. That's a good thought.
the only thing that I can think is like with long draw, because they use like a touch of the band on the face, the angle, if it changes, is going to change the height of the band where it touches their face.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah. I was actually talking about this with Chuck and Steele a little bit back and forth on the chat. He was saying too that, they're looking down the bands, you're going to shoot off the bands. But I don't know. I'm not experienced enough in long draw to really make a difference. I do know that I tend to shoot a little bit better with wider forks than I do with narrower forks for whatever reason. But I can't seem to quite figure all that voodoo out yet
Yeah.
with the long draw. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely shoot long draw better with a more narrow fork gap. Something like 85-ish, maybe even smaller. I shoot the Champ really well. I think the Champ is like an 82 millimeter fork width or 83 or something.
I had one that I did a video on. Actually, it was one that I got from Lone Star Catapults. He made me this nice little wooden natty, and I did some shooting with that. And it was a narrower fork. It took me a while to get dialed in, but that was probably the best frame I ever shot with long draw, except for my Ocularis. I got one of those LE Ocularis there when they came out, the limited edition. And I
Yeah.
shot that one, and it was okay. I just found the rounded tips were throwing me off from my sight picture a little bit, but I don't know.
Yeah, those rounded tips, man. Those rounded tips are rough.
It kind of messes with you, a little.
It does. It does.
Because like I was kind of thinking originally because it's such a wide looking fork, right? I was thinking, okay, I'm going to be shooting off my that little gap where that round kind of cuts around. There's like a little notch cut in there. I'm like, okay, I'm going to shoot off that thing, and I ended up shooting. I was shooting low. I'm like, okay, I don't get it. And then I realized that yeah, the forks are really wide because of the round, but where my fork goes over the tip, if I'm shooting off the band because the tips are round, then it's really more like a 90-ish, or it's a smaller
Yeah.
frame. So I instead of shooting off the fork tip as a reference, I started shooting off the band, and it kind of fixed things for me. But I don't know, it
Yeah,
took a while
yeah.
to figure that out.
It's a more crisp line too. So where the band meets the fork, even on a round tip slingshot, where the band meets the fork is a nice crisp point that you can
Yeah,
like sight down easily.
and it's nice and small too. So when you're shooting those small targets, you can really just squeeze it in there and really split
Yeah,
it. Yeah, it's kind of
yeah.
nice.
I like that.
Yeah, it's such a big deal for me. The even for this guy when I got my Axiom X, I really liked it. I was shooting it, but I found that that little carbon fiber sight or whatever it is, that little
The fiber
one of
optic.
these, yeah, fiber optic sights there. I ended up flipping my sights around, my clips around, but it gives you such a nice point after to shoot off of. It's incredible, and it made a really really big difference. This thing became a savage after for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Axiom X is my favorite slingshot right now. That's just what I've been shooting, but I like the fiber optic, especially when it's mild to low light outside. The fiber optics still stay super duper bright, and when it's like real sunny, you can barely use them. It doesn't really make any difference.
yeah.
But and indoor, it's not a huge thing, but yeah, just flipping the clip like that, I would suppose would give you a nice round and give you a nice tight corner. Now that I'm looking at it, so you just swapped them, like
Yeah. I flipped the right to the left and the left to the right. That's all I did. And it fit perfect. I mean, look, have a look. So this one I lost the fiber optic on this one, but this one's still
oh
on there.
yeah,
Yeah. I just swapped sides. Yeah. And it worked it worked out great. I got a really crisp, clean corner on there now. It's perfect.
heck yeah.
Yeah.
Might try something like that for when I'm like out when it's really, really sunny. Because the fiber optic kind of gets in the way, I think, when it's sunny, but
Yeah,
that's how I've been shooting it now for the last year or so. That's just what I'm used to, I guess.
I had a bunch of slingshots that came in from Prime Fork that had those little sights on, little fiber optic sights, and I found that the little ramp that he was building on the clip to put that little sight in, because I was practicing a lot with like really small targets, like I don't know where I put them there, but here, like my squirrel balls and stuff. Like I only put one of those up there. There's tiny little guys, and I like challenging myself when I'm practicing on things like that. So I miss
Yeah.
more than I hit. But they, I found that those fiber optic sights on tiny targets at 10 meters will completely block it sometimes. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh yeah, this is an issue. I can't have this. So I started filing them all off.
Yeah. You want to see it. I understand that like a lot of people want to actually see the target. They don't want the fiber optic to block it. Like you don't want to put your fork in front of the target. That's like the same problem that people who shoot TTF will have at distance.
Yeah, yeah. But really, when I shoot like an 88 millimeter fork with a fiber optic sight, it kind of solves my issue because at this point now I got to aim slightly below the target instead of directly on it, and the fiber optic actually works for me in that case. On smaller frames like 85s, 88s, it works great for me. But the other way around, it's no good.
So I seen Mikey ask a question about whether or not they're going to do the speed shoot something. Are they not doing the timed speed shoot this year? Um, I tried to pull up a list of events, and I don't see that on here. Oh yeah, on Friday 4 p.m. speed shoot shootout. So
Oh, nice.
they do the separate speed shoot where the time is all that matters. So you have to hit all 10 cans, and it's a separate event from the competition.
Oh, cool.
That event is for time. So you have to hit all 10 cans. It doesn't matter what your time is, but they're just timing you. And I think last year Tim Henry won that with like 40 something seconds, 44 or 45 seconds.
10 cans in 40 seconds. That's pretty quick.
And shooting full butterfly too.
Yeah.
Tim is a savage.
So we got Mikey in the house. I didn't even see him blur by there before. That was quick. How's it going, Robert? Mark Townsend, homemade slingshots. Hey, we're doing pretty good. We got 54 people in here so far, I think.
Heck yeah.
Jack, how's it going? Sling Ranger. Woo. All right. Doing all right. So I gotta tell you, man, I've been checking out your page in the last little while. You've been making some pretty sweet slingshots lately.
Yeah, I've been trying, man. Stepping my game up a little bit.
When did you make that switch over to these fancier materials? Because I know before you were doing mostly those HDPE guys or something like that, right?
Yeah, it was. I had a couple of people that had requested something at the same time. They just asked me if I was still building, and they were like, "Hey, if you want to make something, um, I would want one from you." And basically, I was like, "Well, I got a couple people asking. I should just invest in some material." So I just went out and bought a bunch of stuff, and um, I got the idea to try to use these frames to try to use this clip system with the binding post because I like the binding post attachment. And a lot of people are a little freaked out because you have to put a hole in your band in order to put the post through it.
I was too the first time I saw that. I was like, "Whoa, that looks
Yeah.
risky." Yeah.
Yeah. I have never had one break though. I've never had one tear where the hole is. So I'm pretty okay with it now. But I thought, if I made a binding post and then I just put the clip over the top of it so that it would, have a 360-degree compression around the post and it would work like a clip. So if the clip works, then the post clip system has to work pretty good.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to try it, and I had this idea for how I could cut that on the router and then place the clip piece inside there, and I wanted to try that out. So I started doing that, and it just works out really nice. The only issue that I have sometimes is I can't clean up the inside of the cut where the clip fits into on the frame very well. So um right now the best that I can do is like a really squared off file and like a piece of sandpaper, like real like fine movements in there.
Yeah. Monotonous.
Yeah, it sucks. It
Yeah.
sucks. But yeah, and then as soon as I put them out there, people were like, "Oh, I want one! I want one! I want one!" And I was like, "Oh man, I'm a little
What have I
overwhelmed
done?
now." So
Yeah.
yeah,
But I imagine you can make some pretty good coin off of those too, selling them on Etsy and eBay and all that.
yeah. I mean, it's never really the amount that you would want, considering the amount of work you put in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that make like I've said this before. I think that like custom slingshot makers should be charging a lot more for their product because of the amount of time that it takes. Yeah, it's just a fork stick. Like you're not going to be using these things in a way that it's going to probably cause much damage, if any damage.
Hmm.
But it does take a long time. You want them to look nice. You put a lot of time and effort in. There's a lot more material cost than just the material you're using too. But like, I don't know. I think some of the better makers out there who are charging a lot are doing it right, and they're actually the ones getting the most business. I think. Um, like Moan is always talking about how he's weeks, he's got weeks worth of work at a time, and the same with John Jeffries. Like if you buy a frame from John Jeffries, you can't expect nothing but perfection from that guy.
Yeah. But
Um,
you know what? I got no problem with that. If you're going to be putting out like flawless stuff, then by all means, charge away. You know,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
charge away. Yeah.
My thing is like if there's a market for it, then people will find that market. If there isn't, like if nobody was going to buy a $300, $400, $500 slingshot, nobody would make them either.
Yeah, that's true. You know, it's just kind of unfortunate. Like I'm not going to go say any names or anything, but I was quoted one time a slingshot that was like man, I can't remember the exact price, but it was going to wind up being almost $700 with the change with the exchange and everything. And I was like, man, it's still like a $500 slingshot, and I still got to pay shipping. It was kind of like, dude, I can't do that. That 500
Yeah.
bucks is going to cost me my marriage. Yeah, yeah. I can't do it, dude. I would love to, but I can't. And I've had three quotes from three different guys that were in and around that range. You know,
Yeah, there's still some people out there who just like myself included, like I don't like to charge too much. I actually hate the fact that I charge as much as I do. Occasionally they get to the 100 plus, $150 plus, sometimes more, but um man, that's how much I would have to get in order to want to make them, because it's a
yeah.
lot of work.
I know. Earlier on in my YouTube days, I used to make knives, and I had a bit of a problem because the whole process of getting into that, like I don't know if you experienced this, but throughout the making process, I had like a hand jig that I made up to cut all my bevels, and I was doing it all by file and taking my time. And you're doing two or three strokes, you're brushing it out, doing two or three strokes. I mean, it could take you a whole day to file out a bevel by hand. You know. Then I was doing different methods of attaching the handle to the thing. So I was taking my knives, turning them upside down, locking into a vise, using the vise as a heat sink so I didn't disrupt the heat treat on the bottom end on the butt end of the knife. And I'd heat up cherry red, and I was burning handles in like they would do back in the old days. and they were
Yeah.
holding on really good. And I was like, man, this is cool. I sold a couple, but I had this problem where I was like, man, I did all that work. I had this emotional attachment to this freaking thing I just made, you know? And it's like you kind of get to know these things by working with the materials, you know?
Yeah.
Like it becomes like a relationship almost.
Yeah.
By the end, I was looking at him like, fuck, I want to keep this. Yeah. But the guy had already paid for it, so I'm like, here, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I only sold a couple of them, but I was like, I can't let these go all the time. I get too attached. I feel
Yeah.
like a loser saying it, but
I feel like the same way sometimes. But I always I have the opposite problem where like I'll make something fully with the intention of keeping it. And then I'm like, this one's really nice and I can make another one, so I'll just sell this one.
yeah. Well, I used to do the same thing too, but then I never ended up making another one, and it was like,
Yeah.
damn it.
Or
Yeah,
it doesn't come out the same.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I got a
yeah.
couple of quick pieces that I made up yesterday. So I cut this out of a solid block of G10. This is 3/8 inch. It's a little pickle fork.
Oh, nice.
Um,
I like the color. It's like a jade or something, eh?
yeah, it's like
Jade
it's
or a
like
green?
toxic green that it hasn't been buffed yet.
Yes.
Yeah, so I might not even buff it. I'm not sure, but I made this with the intention of keeping it for myself. And I got my holes for the binding posts. And then I got this guy, which is one of the copies of the tube shooters that I made.
Oh yeah.
And
I
this
love the
one
handle
uses
on that thing.
oh yeah, it's like the HGH handle.
Yeah, those kind of handles, the HGH or the Stanley or the Cygnus, they all have that little waist in them,
Yeah.
and they just lock in your hand so well.
This one's only 3/8 inch thick too. But it's got some it's got that paper micarta in the core,
Yeah, yeah,
and that stuff looks so great. It's like how like G10 sometimes if you sand it up well or buff it well, you can see the layers in it.
yeah.
Or like micarta, if you sand it well, you can see the layers. This bone stuff, if you sand it, or this it's bone colored, but this
Yeah.
paper micarta, if you sand it properly, you can't really see the layers at all.
Nothing, eh?
So it looks like bone. Like it's really strange. It looks like horn or something, or like
Oh, yeah.
it looks like what I would imagine fingernails would look like if they were that thick.
That's kind of gross and cool at the same time.
Yeah, it's such a weird like kind of flesh color. It's weird. But I like it. And then I got some burgundy micarta on the outsides of there. You can kind of
Yeah,
see it.
nice.
Still needs sanding.
Yeah,
It still needs more sanding, but even this. So the reason I was showing you this is because this is just cut from a solid block.
yeah.
This still needs probably a half an hour of sanding and then a good 20 minutes of buffing.
Ooh.
This is 3 layers, so there is some glue that got used, but it's 3 layers of 1/8 inch material. No pins, nothing else. It's just the material. This one already I have an hour and a half into. And I'll need another hour, at least an hour and a half.
Mm.
This I have about 2.5 hours into. And it's gonna need at least another 2 hours or 3 hours of sanding and buffing.
Oh,
So you're
yeah,
talking about even at the least amount of money that I could sell these for if I just had labor, if I got the material for free, you're talking $65, $75.
yeah,
It just gets so pricey so fast. You put so much time and effort in.
yeah. I mean, we me and a family member, we have a little hot sauce business too. We sell hot sauce to a couple of local stores and whatever, do these local markets. But man, if we were to charge our time, our whole goal of making this sauce was we couldn't get a good hot sauce with that that came with a decent price. Like you go to the grocery store and a guy's selling it for $25, and it's not even a full cup It's not even 250 milliliters. You know, I'm like, come on, dude, this is ridiculous, and it tastes like ass. You know, we we, we ended up hitting the lab. We came up with our own brand like 20 years ago and decided to start selling it at these local markets. And we sell about 2,000 jars a year. I mean, it's decent enough. We're not going to get rich off of it or anything, but the
Right.
amount of time, you know, like when you put in like how much all your products cost, from the jar, the labels, the plastic wrap, the ingredients, and your kitchen rental, because you have to have a certified kitchen to be able to sell to stores, and you add in all that stuff, and you're kind of like, oof, you know, the sauce pays for itself, and the bank account does go up because of it, but
Yeah.
it's not in any way, shape, or form that could sustain just one of us, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah, but I mean, in our case, I mean, we save up our year's worth, and then at Christmas time, we have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
live like
Yeah.
rich people for a day, you know, pretty much
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
Yeah. That's the whole reason that I make slingshots to begin with. Like, um,
it's got to be
the
a
whole
labor of
reason.
love, right?
Yeah, it's because I like doing it. It's because there's something like driving me to do it. If that makes any sense. It's just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I feel like I have to. Um, but the other thing is too, like the amount of money that I make is an amount of money that basically um keeps the hobby itself fed. So uh it keeps my gas paid for to get to the events. It keeps the materials paid for. It keeps the lights on, basically.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Oh,
and that's
perfect.
that's all I could want from it.
Yeah, that's perfect. And if you're enjoying what you're doing, it must make you feel proud when you see somebody out there shooting your frames and stuff like that. You
Yeah,
know, that's cool. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
bring a griff for growing peppers at the new. Yeah, let me tell you, buddy. Brad. Oh, yeah. We used to grow our own peppers in our garden in the backyard, and yeah, for us to sustain what we were doing, it was just not worth it. I mean, I was paying a crap ton of money for plants and not even getting nearly enough fruit from it to be able to make more than 2 or 3 batches for a year, and we make more than a dozen. So I would have to do my whole backyard. Not going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I've grown some hot peppers before. They usually do pretty well toward like the middle of the year, like in August and stuff.
Mm.
I have trouble growing sweet peppers. I just my yields aren't what the hot pepper yields are like.
Oh yeah. You guys where you're at? What's the season like? You must get pretty hot in summertime, or
Um, it regularly so in the summer where I'm at, it's actually not that far from you. It's not that far south. I'm right at the very tip of Lake Michigan.
oh okay.
So about as far south as you can go at Lake Michigan, my town is that town that borders Lake Michigan. Is one of
Okay.
the towns that border Lake Michigan. Um, but in the summer, it will almost every year we'll have a few 100-degree days. But it's pretty rare that happens. But we always have a spell where for weeks on end it'll be in the upper 80s and 90s.
Yeah,
So
that's the same here. You got pretty much the same climate as us.
yeah,
We
yeah,
we usually get like a week or two where it's hitting like 40 degrees, or, in that hundreds, 100 to 105 type range.
yeah,
For us, the killer is the humidity. It gets stupid humid here. So bad. Yeah.
yeah. Because you by the lakes, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm right on the St. Lawrence River. It's like a 5-minute bike ride from my house.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's crazy. And there's a lot of water that rolls through there.
yeah. It's because I can walk to Lake Michigan from my house in about 15 minutes or 20 minutes. I mean, it's the same. It's so humid. Um, Lake Michigan is basically an inland sea. I mean, I don't think people who don't live near the Great Lakes don't realize how big those lakes are.
I've been on Superior and on Lake Ontario, and both of those, when you're out there, is terrifying because you can't
Yeah,
see the land in any direction.
no, you can't.
Not in any
You can't.
direction.
It's basically an inland sea. I read somewhere that like just Lake Superior by itself has enough water to cover the entire continental United States in like a few inches of water.
Yeah. Yeah, I read that thing
That's
too. I think I saw it on Facebook. It was like,
that's
holy shit,
nuts.
that's a lot of water. Yeah.
And Lake Michigan is like the third biggest lake of the Great Lakes, but it's still humongous. It's still
It's
huge.
huge.
So
Yeah.
you're basically living by an ocean or a sea, and it gets so humid, man. It gets so humid. That's the only bad part about summers is the humidity because
No
and
matter what you do,
those
you can't
couple
cool it off, eh?
no. And those couple of days where it might hit 100 degrees, they're pretty bad and typically people like they make a big deal about it. But we rarely ever have. I only remember once or twice even as a kid where there was like warnings where we weren't going to have enough water. Like they were telling us to conserve water.
Yeah.
Typical like this year we've had more rain. So we've had like something like 6 inches of rain more than what the average is this
Oh,
year.
wow.
So it's been a lot more rain this year than we typically have, and we hardly ever have that problem where when it gets real hot, they're not telling us to conserve. I love you, baby. They're not telling us to conserve water.
Uh, we've had a few years like out here. Like the first year I bought my house out here in I guess it was 2007, 2008. We had the first year we were here, water ban. No water at all. Like not allowed washing your car, no watering your gardens, nothing. They were like no. And then the next year was normal. We got a lot of snow in winter, which was nice. So it raised up the water tables everywhere, and everything was good. The year after that, again, same thing, water ban, but even worse this time. They actually had to send out a this machine that goes out and started digging a trench in the water in the river so they could pull water and bring it into the servicing plant because where the tube went out was above the water line. It dropped down so low. It was crazy.
Oh my
I have
god!
a picture of me and my son somewhere. We go to this spot where to go and do some fishing, and there's these steps you walk down, and usually the water is just kissing the last step. We were able to walk 100 yards out before we reached the water. It was crazy. So it was like a giant beach. We were flying these big foam airplanes on the beach, running around and everything. And yeah, it was nuts. It was nuts. And then in 17 and 19, we had major floods where all of that whole area was. I almost got in big trouble actually with my house. I have a little creek that runs by my house, and the water. It's usually about 8 or 10 feet down. That's how deep it is. It's like a little cliff thing. The water was like 6 inches from the top of it, so it was actually the water was higher than my basement. Yeah, yeah, it was crazy, but it just didn't come over the hill. Like it was like I was like one rainfall away from disaster. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's rough. Yeah, I think I only remember like water emergencies like once or twice in my whole life living out here. Typically, the big problem that my area has weather-wise is floods. So
Oh yeah.
when it gets real bad or we have bad storms, even if the storms are not with us because the lakes could flood a little bit more. Um, we get some bad flooding, but typically we don't have any kind of issue. So in the summer, they'll tell our town has like what they call a splash pad. So it's not like a town pool, but it's like a place where there's like a bunch of it's like basically a playground
Yeah, we call them
for
water
kids
parks.
where there's a bunch of
Yeah.
water jets and all kinds of stuff happening, and they turn that on usually right after Memorial Day, and it stays on the weekends, and then when it gets like 100+ degrees, they keep it on like all the time,
Oh, nice. It's good way to cool off. That's for sure.
especially for the kids. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to illegally run my dog through those things on really hot days. Take him out for a walk. I'm like, okay, let's go, buddy.
Yeah.
We go sprinting through the mister. He tried to grab it all with his face, while we were running by. And
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, we never got caught, so it was worth it. Yeah,
That's
a
awesome.
$275 fine if they catch you in a park with a dog here. So yeah,
Ooh.
Yeah, they don't mess around.
Damn.
Yeah, well, we had a bunch of dummies walking through there, letting their dogs just roam around in the park while the kids were playing, and another kid tried to hug them and get bit. So they're like, okay, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it's gone too far. Yeah, yeah.
You
It's
ever?
curious. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask. I was gonna change the subject if you were.
Oh, yeah, go for it. Change
Yeah,
away, buddy.
I was gonna ask if you ever plan to attend some of the tournaments down here.
Absolutely. I'm actually in the works right now of just getting my passport. I mean, back in the day before 9/11, Canadians used to just go back and forth all the time, and we
Yeah.
even had a property down there way back in the day. We had like a lot that we used to rent on the trailer park. We used to go there right on Lake Champlain. We used to do that all the time, but right around that time in 2001, we sold the trailer, and it became a hassle going back and forth over the border, and a lot of the lineups were like 3-4 hours. So we're like, I screw this. And anyway, I ended up getting married, got my passport for that, and then I never renewed it. I never went away again. So yeah, yeah, I got to get that done. Once that's done, it used to be a real pain in the ass here for us to get our passports. So we had to take it to a commissioner of oaths, have them stamp it. We had to put a bunch of references on there. They would actually check. It was pretty crazy. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was a long thing. I had to go get a doctor to sign it and this person to sign it to say I am me. It was like a real pain in the ass. A
Yeah, yeah.
photo at the special place, and then they send it out, and like 3 months later, they send you your passport. You know, it was a bit of a mess. So I didn't want to go through that crap again. I'm like, forget it. I'm just staying in Canada. We'll call it done. But now I want to go. I want to go. My buddies went down to New York State for a camping trip out there, a wild camping trip out there with canoe, and I couldn't get my passport in time, so I had to bail on it. And I was like, it broke my heart. So yeah,
That sucks.
yeah. So I am planning on attending it. I was actually talking with Brad. He's kind of trying to work something out for in New Hampshire, I think it was. But I'm in the works of trying to get my thing. If I can do that, then I'll be down there, and if I can get the vacation time, also that's also an issue. But we'll see if I can get it all down, set away, and I will try to make an appearance this year if I can. But it
Well,
won't be.
I can tell you that like the East Coast tournament's just a couple of weeks away. I know that's probably out of the question, but
Yeah.
the East Coast tournament's the big one. That is, I would actually recommend most people who have a Type A personality that they show up to that one. Um, the slingshot tournament that is hosted in Hocking Hills, Ohio, is it's a smaller tournament, but it's still one of the bigger ones that we have. But I feel like that one is much more well suited to people who aren't so like myself, so like outgoing and um I don't know what the word I'm trying to use here. It's more introverted.
More
You
of an
know?
introvert crowd. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's the same kind of people, but I think the atmosphere there is much more mellow.
Okay. More chill.
Yeah, the East Coast tournament's just big. It's so many people, and there's an indoor um area. There's a clubhouse basically because it's like a gun range, and it's pretty. We do the knockdown shoot inside there, so it's pretty decent size.
Oh,
But
cool.
there's a lot of usually there's like a lot of people inside all the time. And so when you go to shoot your knockdown scores, even if you're at a point where it's like a lull, there's still going to be at least a dozen people kind of just there watching.
Oh, that's cool.
Whereas like at the Hocking Hills tournament where they had the location of the knockdowns, it was like it's outdoor, everything's outdoor. Although they have I don't know what the word here. They have like a shelter, I guess, like a pavilion that they
Okay.
built. And it's a great big like permanent pavilion, wood and shingles and all kinds of stuff, but it's still outdoor. And the knockdowns are often a little like alcove by one of their trails. So at any given time you might be the only person there and the person scoring you.
Oh, cool.
all the little things are sectioned off differently. So, the range is still pretty wide open, but beside the practice range, you're just kind of by yourself. It seems more like private.
And where does everybody sleep when they go there? They rent hotels, or they just sleep right on grounds, or what?
Yeah, the people, many people probably sleep in hotels, but especially at that place, there's a wide, like, kind of rolling hill on the property where everybody kind of sets up camp. And I
Oh,
think
cool.
that especially at that one, most people are just tent camping. Um, Same thing with the East Coast tournament, although the grounds the grounds availability at East Coast, I don't know if they're going to move across the street there to there's like a big field there too that nobody really camps in. I'm wondering though if they won't just try to get people to go over there to camp, because by the clubhouse it's always packed. The people who show up there early usually get their spot, but then you have to keep pushing out to camp there. There's plenty of space to camp though, so if you wanted to, you could show up and pop a tent or throw a hammock up. I'm sure there plenty of trail like area where you could find a couple of trees. It's very, very wooded.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. If there was wooded all over the place, I'd just bring my hammock and spend the 3 days there, and or however many days it is,
Yeah, yeah.
just
It,
sleep
it
right
would be
there.
easy. Even at the
Yeah.
Hocking Hills tournament the first year I went, I pulled my van up by a tree, like about 10 or 15 feet away from a tree, and I just tied my hammock to my van and then
Oh,
tied the other
nice.
end to the tree. So it still worked out fine.
No, nice. And if you're sleeping in the hammock, you're sleeping well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Hocking Hills is probably second in line as far as like the experience.
I think that's like a 10-hour drive from here for me. Still doable. It's not so
Yeah.
bad. A day to travel, however long the thing is, and then a day to come back, and it's usually like halfway through a weekend, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, typically like all of the tournaments that I've been to, Sunday is usually like a cleanup and hugs and kisses day. Um,
Yeah.
you basically just kind of wake up, clean up, say bye to everyone, and you're out usually about noon or so.
Oh, nice. So you've done quite a few of these things now, eh? A lot of these tournaments. Yeah.
Yeah, I get to as many as I can realistically make. Because of my previous work schedule at my last job, I had a lot harder time getting around because I had to request vacation time and move dates around and do all that stuff. Where I'm working now, though, I took this job on the premise that I would be able to come and go whenever I needed to, and they're very, very relaxed about it. As long as I let them know more than like a week ahead of time when I'm going to be gone, that they
Yeah.
just tell me to go. But I don't get any vacation time though. So if I leave, I don't get paid.
Ooh, that's tough. Yes, you kind of got a plan for it, right? How many you could
Yeah,
realistically go to a year, and yeah,
that's why I'm building these, so I'm can bring a few and make a few bucks at least while I'm there. It doesn't turn out to be a total loss.
yeah, that's good. Do you end up setting up a table while you're there, or you're like, hey, buddy, want to buy a sling?
Kind of works both ways. Usually
Yeah.
usually at East Coast there's usually been a vendors section. So you can just throw a few things out on the table for the vendors. This year there's not going to be any vendors indoors because we're using the entire facility to run the knockdowns in there. So we have to this year you're going to have to bring your own table or have them in your code or whatever. But
Oh boy.
yeah, typically I only usually bring a few items. So I'll usually bring like a few of the HDPE frames to use as giveaways or to use for swaps or like the trade tables or whatever. And then I bring a few of the higher end ones that I can maybe flip or use for trades as well.
I was actually getting pretty excited last summer. My parents, they've retired out off in this place in Ontario, and they got themselves a nice trailer. They spend the whole summer there, right on the water, and they got a boat, do fishing and all that stuff. And my dad had mentioned to the guy who runs the place that I can go and do like I guess a seminar for all the kids. And I was going to bring a whole bunch of the HDPE frames that I have and band them up with some light ammo, shoot some clays at some cans, and get a whole bunch of kids up there and teach them how to shoot. But it didn't pan out last year. I was kind of hoping that maybe in the future we can get to a point where we can actually get a club out here and
Yeah, what size was that? Like, how many people were going to be there?
I really don't know. I have no idea. He had mentioned it to the place. There's a bunch of kids, like there's hundreds of them. So it would have been really cool. They have this big field out there. I could have set up a bunch of tables and got it done, but never heard anything back after. He was like, "Yeah, it sounds interesting. Sounds interesting." And then I waited the whole summer and nobody contacted me. I gave them the information, but
Hmm.
I don't know if they were worried that kids were going to start doing it in the park and shooting at the birds or whatever. But I mean, their parents would have to be there with them, and I would do a little safety talk first before we got started and whatnot. But
Yeah, yeah,
that kind of thing, and then we can just let each kid come up, take 5 shots, and go back to the end of the line and just circle them through. Thought
yeah,
it would
for
have been
sure.
fun. Yeah, thought it would have been fun. I would have supplied everything. I've got like crap tons, crap tons of this stuff that I'm probably never going to shoot. So I'm like, let's go for it. I mean, I bought that Texas Star and that Battle Tree thing there, and I
Yeah,
only
yeah,
shoot those. I only shoot those with clays, but I don't get them out all that often. I mean, I should. They're fun, but yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
If you can get an estimate for how many people, like if you get the opportunity to do something like that, let me know because I'll send you a bunch of stuff, and or I'll talk to Nathan and see if he can't hook you up and do something for you guys because we like Simple Shot wants to be like the people who are introducing people to the sport,
yeah.
and
Well,
so if we
that's
can get,
totally cool.
yeah, if they can get like I'm sure that either I can send you a bunch of HDP frames, especially for the kids, or I can probably get Nathan to maybe supply some clay or something, and um,
Mm,
get you at least well set up so you don't have to worry about running out or only
yeah.
letting kids take so many shots or whatever.
Yeah, we'll see what happens this year. I'm gonna talk to my dad again, go see the guy that runs the place and chat him up a little bit and see if he'd be interested. But they put on these type of things like every week for the kids. So and if I mean probably for by my time having anything happen decent here in Canada or at least in Quebec, it probably won't happen in my time. But if we can get the next ones that are loving it to get into the
Yeah,
sport and be good ambassadors for it, I think it's the best thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
figured I could start there, and I mean, here in Montreal, there's always the language issue. So me being a squarehead is going to be a little tough to explain everybody in French. My French is not very strong, so yeah, so that would be an issue. I'm probably sure the laws here would shut me down if I tried to do that, but I don't know. We'll see.
Somebody asked to remind us of the dates and time of the upcoming tournaments. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys the roundabout info real quick. There's a tournament. So the East Coast Slingshot Tournament is in Elverton, Pennsylvania. It's a suburb of Pittsburgh. And that is at the end of this month. It'll be May, let's see, May 31st, June 1st, and June 2nd. There is a slingshot tournament in Greencastle, Indiana, which is about a half an hour west of Indianapolis. And that is the last weekend in June. So that'll be June 28th, 29th, 30th. The Hocking Hills tournament is the weekend of September 21st and 22nd, 23rd. I don't, whatever weekend that is, about that time. I can't remember the exact dates, but my anniversary is the 22nd, and I'm pretty sure that's one of the dates. So I got to turn that into something for the wife. And then there's a West Coast tournament that should be the first or second weekend in October. That is in California, Southern California. That's all the ones that I know of so far that are like 100% for sure.
Who runs the West Coast tournament?
Kelvin
Okay. Yeah.
Fomster.
Yeah, the
Um,
Fomster.
and my buddy Jay Hersey. They are the ones that like do all the work basically. If anybody has questions though, Jose Guerrero, Mr. Saw 'em and Shot 'em on YouTube here, he is the guy to ask about that. He's their promoter guy. He's the one that's big into getting people to go.
Oh, cool. But I guess they must get a pretty big turnout for that one too, I'd imagine.
No, it's actually been pretty private and small the last couple of years. I can't look. Canada's huge landmass, but all of your population is like just
Tongue of the
within.
line.
It's
Yeah.
just within a few miles of the U.S. border. The United States is massive as well, but when you go West Coast, man, people are so spread out. I don't think people realize how few people live on the western half of the United States. If you're not in California or like Denver, then you have miles and miles to go before you can get anywhere. So when you have a population that's so spread out, even in California, you're just not going to have that many people who can easily get there. When you go to the West Coast tournament, I think had like 20 people at it last year. So, and that was the second year it had happened. The year before it was even less.
Wow.
If Mikey and Chuck and Steele can get can restart the Southwest tournament, which was in Arizona, that one had a few more people, I think, but it's still just not that many people out there. It's not many people that can easily access it. Like even myself living near Chicago is pretty well centralized in the United States, but all of the activity is really east of us.
Mm.
So anytime I'm going to go somewhere, typically I'm traveling semi-east or south. Whereas like it's very rare I'm going west, and then I have so much area to cross before I get anywhere.
Yeah.
I have to drive all the way. I have to drive all the way across Illinois because Chicago's in Illinois, but it's about as far west or about as far east as you can go. So I have to drive all the way across Illinois, all the way across Nebraska, which is ain't nothing out there, or Missouri, which is the same, same situation. That's until I can get to like Denver or somewhere where there's like a midway point. And then if I fly, that's a whole other situation because people who are flying over from the West Coast into like if they're going to go to the East Coast, there's a lot of places to fly into like that are close. There's a lot of you can fly in a lot of places and then drive just an hour or two, Whereas like if I from Chicago fly out to, LA or whatever, once I get there, I'm fine, but then I have to drive another 4 hours to get to wherever I'm going.
Yeah. That's rough.
So
That's rough.
it's still just a lot. It's hard to have people out there. Once we get the West Coast tournament well established, I'm sure that it will be very, very big, and that'll probably be the second. I would imagine just the opportunity for a West Coast tournament would be big. So
Oh yeah. That would be a lot of fun. But it's crazy though when you think about it. When you hit those you hit the road and you start going west. I mean, for us, you were talking about I can't remember the states you mentioned, but they're like right below like Manitoba and Saskatchewan. And when you start heading west that way, for us, it's like I leave here, I got a good 12 hours before I reach like this small town called Manitowoc. I used to have family to live there. We'd go visit. But it's all once you've passed that little bit of Ontario, you've passed Toronto. It's
yeah,
like It's like rock, and it's all Canadian Shield for the longest bit. And then once you hit that spot, like just past the Canadian Shield bit, and it becomes flat. You'll drive 2.5 days of just flat farmer's field for as far as the eyes can see. It's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same, man. I mean, I'd love to go. I've been to Vegas a few times. I've never actually been to. I don't think I've ever been to California at all. Um, but the couple of times that I go to Vegas, I'm just inside Vegas. I don't actually leave. Well, I went to like Red Rock Canyon and some other places around there, Hoover Dam and whatnot, but you still like it's all touristy stuff. So you can call an Uber and you're there in 10 minutes. But like if I had to fly somewhere and then get in the car and drive, when you come to the East Coast tournament, for instance, you fly into Pittsburgh, let's say, you got a half an hour drive. I mean, it's nothing.
Yeah, it's nice.
And you're there. If people who want to come to the AIM tournament in Indiana, if you fly into Indianapolis, it's a half an hour drive and you're there. It's nothing. But like if I was to go to the West Coast tournament, I still have to drive for a few hours to even if I fly in. So, it's like what's the difference? Why fly? It's rough. So once those things start to get worked out, I'm sure that it will grow really, really quickly.
Yeah, that's cool. I got the Dingo Bingo. It seems that he's probably from the same area as me. He said, "Mark, super keen to get some new faces to Montreal to out to learn. Any Montreal-based meetups ever? I've never heard of a Montreal meetup. I've never heard of a meetup in Canada, and to be honest, I don't even know anybody in person that shoots that lives near my area. I'm all alone out here, bro. Pretty much. Yeah."
Like you said, if they have one in Tucson, the airport's about 40 minutes away. See, that would be totally doable.
Yeah, that's doable.
That's easy. I would look forward to that like crazy because you don't have to drive that far. But
Can you imagine hopping off of a plane, waiting to get your baggage, go rent a car, throw that in there, and have to drive another 2 hours after that? That's like no.
man,
No.
it would suck.
Yeah.
It would suck.
Somebody please stream it. I'd like to watch from home. Yeah,
Tell me about the
great.
Indiana tournament. Okay, so in Indiana, we're doing one in Greencastle, Indiana. It's about half an hour, 20 minutes, something like that. Outside of Indianapolis, it's west of Indianapolis, and that is the last weekend in June. It's the inaugural tournament, and the guy who's putting it on, man, his name is Will Bartlett. This dude is just a workhorse. I have yet to see somebody who just took to slingshots and just like is going. He has been so he got the county to use their bed tax to do this whole thing for us.
Oh wow!
And what the bed tax is like a tax on air B&Bs and hotels and like Verbos and stuff. And they pay a tax on each bed that they have available. And the county didn't have something to do with this money. And he went to the county and he talked to, he knew a guy who knew a guy, whatever. And they were like, hey, we could get butts in the beds if we have an event where people are coming from out of state and we want more of that kind of stuff. And so Will went there and he got them to pay they paid for the steel cutouts for the woods course. They opened a park, like a town park for us to camp in. They are providing meals Friday morning breakfast, Saturday morning breakfast, Friday evening dinner, Saturday evening dinner, and Sunday morning breakfast.
No way.
Yeah, dude. I don't know what he's telling these people or what kind of deal with what kind of people he's making, but he's doing it right.
But that's a good
And then
sell. Like, look, if you're getting taxes off this, we can get the people in here, and you know, you're just gonna get
yeah,
more taxes from those beds being used up. Let's do it.
yeah. And now they're talking about turning it into like multi a multi-time per year event.
Oh wow.
So they want to, they want to be able to have like schedule us for multiple weekends per year, turn it into like a national championship type thing. I guess the commissioner was telling him that he wanted that the way that this is going, he wants Greencastle to be the slingshot capital of the U.S. basically.
You know what, that kind of thing is great for the sport. If they can get people to go out there and it's like they're going to a spa or something, they're getting
Yeah.
fed, they're having fun, they got a place to sleep. I mean, that's a win-win. I think everyone
Not
will
to
make the
mention,
trip for that.
not to mention the fact that like if you involve the local government, then typically if they're paying for everything, then they're taking the responsibility for damage as well. So you don't have to worry too hard about there being like a need for insurance and liability. Basically,
Yeah.
they're taking on that responsibility. So and
Perfect.
as well as I do that you're never going to beat the government.
No.
You know,
No. Yes, no. No. No, that's not gonna happen.
so yeah, I think it's just going to be something great, man. I really think that we have a lot of interest too. We have a Facebook page with an event on there, like so like an event page, and there's more people that have clicked the interested button for this event than have responded to the East Coast tournament page.
Oh boy.
So it could end up being a lot bigger than I think it's going to be. But realistically, I'm hoping for 30 to 40 competitors. I think that's realistic.
Later, Huggy. Yep.
Yeah, the ruler.
A ruler? I don't think so. I got a tape measure. Would that work?
Is that?
Yep.
Thank you.
There you go. Yeah. Oh, that's never a good sign. Usually where they're measuring shit, that means I'm going to be moving furniture later.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. I'm starting to sweat already, boys. This is not good news.
Yeah. Anyway, I just think I think we have a good opportunity there. And like I said, it's about a half an hour west of Indy, so pretty easy to get to.
Yeah. So how long have you been shooting for, Jordan? I mean, when I started really looking into slingshots, you were like one of the first channels that I found too, was back in the day. So you've been at it for quite a while, huh?
Yeah, like 5 or 6 years now. Um,
Okay, so we probably started around the same time, I think, around 2018, I guess, where we got into it.
yeah,
Into it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would think that it was about 2018 or so that I started. I don't remember exactly when. I didn't have like like an aha moment where I was just like in it fully and going. Um, it started for me as a way to I was into archery, and it started as a way for me to like practice without shooting my bow in the
Yeah.
backyard. So
Yeah.
people look at I was having this talk with somebody like if you walked into a park, like a local park with a bow and arrow, people would think you were nuts.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'd get arrested immediately. Pretty much. That would be it. That would be it.
But if you walk into a park, a local park with a slingshot, people just think you're dumb.
Yeah.
And
It's better to be thought of as dumb than dangerous, right?
yes, yes. So I
Yeah.
think that the slingshot just managed. It started as a way for me to not appear like a lunatic.
Mm-hmm.
But then it really evolved because I was really, really quickly. I was so much better with a slingshot than I ever was with a bow. Yeah, I mean, it was like maybe 6 months into shooting, and I was hitting cans from 20 yards and, shooting my half-inch steels through an apple and like doing all kinds of silly things that I could never do with a bow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, I was living with my parents back in the day. My dad had a compound bow, and we used to shoot it in the backyard. And then later on, after getting married, I got into archery, kind of the same, I guess, kind of the same as you. And I used to go to a local club. We used to shoot at a local club, but it got to be so many people in there, and there would be like we had when we were shooting indoors, we had 5 meters, 10 meters, 15 meters, 20 meters, and 25 indoors was as far as we
Right.
could shoot. But there were so many people in there that you would have 5 or 6 people basically lined up behind you while you're taking your 3 shots, for example.
Yeah.
You got everyone in behind you, and the next thing you know, like I had people hitting my arrows because they're shooting at the same target, and then people, I'm in full draw trying to get my pin on, and a guy's bumping into my arm. Like they're all running around, everyone's talking. It was just like, oh, okay, this is not enjoyable. I'm actually getting a little frustrated,
Yeah.
and I'm getting ready to walk up to the line, and this little kid zips in front of me to shoot first, and I was kind of like, oh man, this is not going to work. So I ended up joining the club only for the outdoors. And I went back again last year because I wanted to go do some deer hunting this year, or last year, I mean.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sure enough, some dipshit who has a property that surrounds the the archery club's outdoor range. We have a 3D target and a range that goes up to 55 yards, which was perfect. And sure enough, I joined the club again to get back into it, but only at the outdoor range where it's not so busy. And one day we were there, we started hearing guns go off, and some dummy was running through the 3D archery target with a shotgun, shooting up all the targets.
What?
Yeah. And we all got an email. They're like, okay, everybody, the door's locked. The police are investigating. Whatever. The guy claimed to not be shooting at the targets. I'd never shot at the targets, but he was shooting in the direction of the club. And his farm property backed onto that area, but it was a wooden section, so he claimed to be hunting, and it was an accident or whatever, but they shut it down for the whole season. So I missed my hunting season again. And I was like, you know what? I'm like ready to put this down and be like, I'm done. Because
You don't have
you can't get the
you don't have
practice in, you know?
yeah, you don't have much luck with that hunting stuff lately, do you?
No, dude, it's driving me nuts. It's like 4 years, 4 seasons in a row now. I've had my thing, all my
Jesus.
permits and everything, and finding land is the most challenging thing I've ever seen. I found one guy. I had asked him if I could have access to his property to hunt in behind, and the guy wanted $1,000. I'll let you hunt my property, but you got to pay me $1,000 for the season.
Holy
I'm like,
shit.
no way. He's like, you're gonna have exclusive access. All I want to do is just pass your property. I don't want to hunt your property. I just want to pass your property onto Crown land. I'm gonna put footprints. Go do my hunt, and you'll see footprints come back. That's it. No, not even that. That he said no to. If I wanted to go on his property, I had to hunt his property, and he was going to pay me that. I've had other people also give me access to cross over, and even at that, it was like, oh no, well, pay me $100, just to cross your land. I'm like, fuck, man, like this is stupidity. So anyway,
Sucks.
I give it up pretty much. I'm gonna still try to do my slingshot stuff because I can go into Ontario, but I had
Yeah.
that planned out for my first hunting videos. I actually reached out to Wayne and Matt Redding because I wanted to do a really special review and make my first hunting video with the HGH. And
Yeah.
those two guys collaborated on that thing. I spoke with Matt. I spoke with Wayne. I took a bunch of photos in. I was getting ready to put together this really nice video, like really go all out. And by the time I got to my spot, the access I had was now bought over by a private owner who now has the whole Quran land that I was planning on going to surrounded. So you have to cross his property to get to the land. Yeah, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. When it happens, it happens. There'll be a video on it, and then when it happens
Yeah.
again, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not advocating for this, so don't think that I'm advocating for this. But at least with the slingshot, it's pretty easy to sneak it in and sneak it out to a lot of places.
Oh yes.
So whether or not people want to take that however they want to take it, fine. But please, when you go, just be smart. So one of the things that I am working on with a few different people right now is trying to come up with a way to advocate for slingshot as a proper hunting tool. Because even in the States, it's not allowed all in every state to hunt with a slingshot. I think that one of the reasons is because we recognize in the United States, gun culture, and when you bring a slingshot, a lot of times I think people who are making these laws don't realize how capable they are of taking small game. They think they're
It's
toys.
actually might be a good thing in some ways too,
Yeah,
because
I think it is.
yeah, because I would see them trying to regulate it.
I think
Which
that it is a
yeah,
good thing. I'd rather there be a little bit of like, nah, that thing ain't gonna do anything,
just a
rather
kids
than it being too dangerous. We gotta ban these, we gotta regulate these, we gotta make money on taxing these.
yeah.
So I'd rather it be that way. But if we can collectively get together as a community and show that at very least they're capable of hunting things like pheasants and squirrels, and we don't take it to the point where people are shooting like raccoons and the neighbor's cat and coyotes and things like that,
Yeah.
where we say like collectively we say, a slingshot's plenty capable of hunting small game,
Yeah.
pheasants, pigeon,
Grouse,
rat, grouse,
grouse,
yeah.
rats, rabbits.
um But then we make it a point to be like, you shouldn't hunt anything bigger than that. It's not appropriate. Get your 22, get a bow, get a crossbow, whatever. If you want to take, if you have a coyote problem, let's say, slingshot should be the last thing you're trying to take those things with. Even though
Yeah.
we know it could work.
I've
And
actually seen somebody post pictures of it working. Yeah.
yeah, it's not,
Yeah.
we know that it will work. We know that it's possible, but we want to use these things in a responsible way where our main fare is, pheasant and squirrel and rabbit, let's say. I think we can get an advocacy group together to help get those laws passed in the states where they're currently not allowed.
Mm.
And then at the same time, in states like Indiana, where slingshots aren't an option, for like they don't talk about them in the books. They don't say slingshots are not allowed. So when I called the game warden, I was like, I have a slingshot. I can get about 10 or 12 foot-pounds out of this thing. What would the rules be? And the game warden was like, as long as there isn't an ammunition restriction, I don't see why that's a big deal. And so when I looked at, and you'll see like on the books, it'll say like squirrel season is this time. There are no ammo restrictions. Okay, great. There's no ammo restrictions. That means I can use my slingshot. Rabbit season is this time. There's no ammo restrictions. Cool. Nuisance animals, there are no ammo restrictions. So you can all year round, if I want to, I can go take nuisance animals on my property. I can go to public land and take nuisance animals all year round if I want to. But I don't want to advocate in Indiana for slingshots being on the books.
Mm.
I would rather them stay off the books.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
in places where they're like saying slingshots are not allowed, I would like to try to advocate for them to at least be like part of the non-ammo restriction section.
I know for me when I inquired about it here, because according to the rules in the rule book, they mention bows and they mention rifles as hunting implements. They don't mention you can't use a slingshot.
Yeah.
But they kind of in passing say these are the tools that you hunt with. Right? So
Yes.
does that mean these are okay and everything else is excluded? Well, it seems like it depends on who you talk to. Because I ended up calling them up and saying, hey, it used to be legal to hunt with a slingshot here in Quebec. Used to be. But then they changed the rule at some point, which I'm assuming is because there's a bunch of people who aren't good enough with their tools and were damaging and wounding animals all over the
Yeah.
place. Now, if we're going to bring in ethical shots to it, you could take an unethical shot with any kind of tool you're using. Firearm, bow, spear, atlatl, whatever it is you choose to hunt with. You can make an unethical shot with any single one of those. The problem is not your tool. The problem is your ethics.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah. For
mean?
sure.
You know what I mean? And like I told the girl, I said, look, I'm pretty good with a slingshot. I can easily take rabbit, squirrel, birds. I mean, I wouldn't shoot anything bigger than that. And I also have my bow hunting license. So I know all the safety, everything is,
Yeah.
and really, what's the difference between the two things? Just the projectile we're shooting at. I'm harpooning one with an arrow and I'm blunt force traumaing the other one with a slingshot. So,
Yeah.
I don't see what the big issue is. And if you're worried about blunt force trauma, then people who hunt rabbits use thumper arrows anyway, thumper tips or judo
Yeah.
points, so that's a blunt force kill anyway. So what's the difference here?
Right.
So, and well, they basically said, sorry, sir, all it says is that hunting is only legal with this and that. And there was a part of me that was kind of like, maybe I'll get in trouble for saying this. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to play ignorant because it doesn't say you cannot use and go out with my permits, buy my tag, all that stuff. My not my tags, but my hunting permit that I got to carry with me for small game.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't got to bring I don't got to bring those in. I can just take them home, but I just can't be in possession of a certain amount more than what they say, depending on the critter. I was thinking of doing that, and I was like, but then if I get caught and they're like, hey, you're hunting with a slingshot, and then some clown's gonna put it in the paper,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it's just gonna,
That's the line that we got to toe. So,
yeah,
um, yeah. So I've been working with a couple people over the last like maybe year or so to create sort of this like advocacy group where we can figure out the right way to make it legal without it being regulated, if that makes any
yeah,
sense.
yeah. And I think probably the best way of doing that is taking these slingshot tournaments and trying to turn them into festivals of some kind. Where people from
Yeah.
all over the place are gonna come in. Hey, Mark, thanks a lot, dude. I appreciate you, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. And just to let you guys know, coming very soon, I've made a decision. I've got 2 extra of these frames here kicking around. I'm going to show you real quick. I've got a brown Venator and a purple Venator. Both of these are going to be going to my subscribers in a giveaway, and the first one is going to be going to members. They get to pick one, and the other one after that's going to be going to everybody else on the channel. So that'll be pretty interesting. That'll be coming up pretty soon. So there are benefits to becoming members. Just saying. Yeah, there are benefits. Yeah. Besides, you get a little extra video here and there from me, which is kind of fun. Yeah.
Anybody ever use an atlatl? I've never used one before.
I've made one and used one.
No, I've never tried it. My
They're
brother,
the stupidest things ever, man. I'm telling you.
my brother is an excellent thrower. He can throw like, he grew up pitching, and he's a left-handed thrower, but his like whole shtick is throwing stuff. Not he's can shoot a slingshot okay, but atlatl, if he got his hands on one, I'm sure he would be able to work that
No time,
in
man.
no time. Yeah.
Yeah, the first time I shot one, I almost shot myself in my own foot. I was trying to figure out how to do it. Instead of just taking a couple of gentle throws, I just I'm gonna go ahead all in. Let's give it hell.
Yeah.
I threw it and I curved it down, and the thing went like this and shot straight down into the floor, right beside my foot. I was
Jesus.
like, oh, yeah, these are dangerous. Okay, let's take our time. I took my time, got my timing right, and I mean, they work. They work. You could throw them way farther than you could with your regular arm.
Oh, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that.
Way farther.
That's why I don't draw up on a compound anymore.
Oh,
I've released pointing at the ground halfway.
Oh, yeah.
I've never
Nightmare.
shot myself, but man, that's scary as hell.
Yeah, I bet. Because
Scary as hell.
I use I don't have like one of those thumb releases. I use like the old school triggers.
Yeah, the triggers. Yeah,
Yeah, an old school trigger. I just line it up and just give it a little touch, but it's so sensitive. Like
they're you
it's
can't
like
bump
just
them at all.
no, just a touch. So when I'm drawing with it, I always put my finger on the back end of it and I force against it to make sure they stay closed. Because I start pulling it back. My bow's like a 70-pounder,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the let off is real nice. But when you're anywhere in here where it's like maxed out, oh my god, it's terrifying. You don't want that slipping.
No,
No,
not at all.
no,
Not at
not at
all.
all.
Yeah, I think as far as hunting goes, the best way, so like Fred Bear did this with archery because they used to say the same things about archery. They used
Yeah,
to say like, people are just going to go out there and hurt the animals. They're not going to actually kill anything. And Fred Bear went out there and basically did all the tests. He showed everybody that like if you place your shot properly with a bow, you're probably just as likely to kill as you are with a rifle, except that, rifles obviously got a lot more distance power, but you can get there with a bow just as easily if you're taking the correct shots.
yeah.
And now archery has, in a lot of cases, archery has their own season even where
Yeah,
you can
that's
only
how it is
go
for
out
us.
and
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
So I think we can do the same thing. I think we can, as a slingshot community, I think there's enough intelligent people to go out there, show what can be done, how it should be done, and don't do dumb things with it, and
yeah.
advocate for it as a legitimate hunting tool.
Oh, for sure. And it is legitimate. Like it is. You're throwing
Yeah.
like I mean, when I did that testing with that Sniper Sling Black, I was throwing 11 mil steel with .7. I could have gone up. I could have gone up still, but with .7, I'm shooting 11 mil steel at 275 feet per second. The impact
Yep.
on that thing is just stupid. I was hitting when I did the test of it. I took like a really thick soup can, stuck it on a bucket, and I let it rip. It didn't just punch a hole through both sides, but it punched a hole through both sides of the can and completely crushed it. Like that's terrifying, man. That's terrifying. And the 9.5 millimeter steel, I mean, I was getting 315 feet per second with that. That's
That's short draw?
that's short draw to my face.
Dude.
315 feet per second with 9.5. A taper of 24 to 12. I probably would have got more if I was 24, 25, 50. It would have
So
been faster.
I don't know if you've ever seen the video that Jorg Sprav did when he was him and Nathan from Simple Shot were shooting guns at a pendulum and then shooting a slingshot, but he was shooting a 1-inch steel ball,
He's an animal.
a 25 millimeter steel ball, and he had a Starship slingshot, so an extended length, and he was shooting butterfly with it. And he managed to get a 1-inch steel ball, weighs 68 grams. He managed to get that 206 feet per second.
That's crazy.
Now, just at the end, I think at the end of the video, so he did the calculations. They did the ballistics calculations, and that hit harder than a 40, a 38, a 22 long rifle. Like the only thing that beat it in power was a 357 Magnum.
Oh my goodness.
And that's as far as handguns go. That is
Yeah.
power. You're talking about a 45. Still, the slingshot was hitting harder.
Yeah.
That's nuts. And so, when you're talking about like the actual destructive capability, that's a good video. But then at the end of the video, he actually shot a 1/2-inch steel ball 350 feet per second.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Yeah. You're blowing holes in car doors with that,
Dude, just to think about the power that a 1/2-inch steel ball, because a 1-inch steel ball is not realistic.
No.
Jorg Sprav is like 6'3" and he weighs like 260 pounds. He is a big boy.
Yeah. He's a giant German gorilla, is what he is.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's not realistic for most people to shoot like that, but a half-inch steel ball is realistic.
Yeah.
Shooting butterfly is realistic. And when you're talking about getting a half-inch steel ball traveling anywhere near 300 feet per second, I mean, you're putting whatever you hit with that within about 25 yards, you're putting it down.
Oh yeah,
You're
it's like
putting
a
it down.
small cannon. Really, it's like a small
Yeah.
cannon. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah. I used to love his
I,
videos, man. He
dude,
was the first guy I ever saw. I was like, wow.
same.
Yeah,
He's the one that got me shooting slingshots.
yeah. He's definitely one of them. I mean, I saw him shooting a couple of times, and I was telling my son one time. I'm sure I told the story, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating it. But my son was asking, "What did you used to do when you were a kid?" I said, "Oh, we used to play war games in the woods all the time." You know, it started off with we would hide in the woods like hide and seek, but we're in full camouflage, and we'd pop up and we'd slap paint pellets on people. We try to sneak up on them so they wouldn't see each other, and that's how you knew you were up. We and one summer we ended up graduating to slingshots, so we went out and got these wrist rocket daisy style things, and we were shooting each other with those with paint pellets. War games, full camo in the woods.
Yeah.
You know, nothing but sticks and ticks on you. You know, like that kind of deal. And we did that for like a full summer, and it was really we had so much fun. We even videotaped it at one time. We tried to make our own movie. We were big on that TV show. Uh, what was it called? It was about Vietnam. Uh,
MASH?
no, it wasn't MASH. Tour of Duty. There was a TV show called Tour of Duty that we
Oh,
used to
okay.
get here. And it was about Vietnam, and we did a whole film of this thing, and the two of us were having these battles with these things. It was a lot of fun. But he was asking me. We did that for one summer, then we started shooting each other with pellet guns. So then that's where everything just went a little bit batshit. But we we had he was asking me about it. So I said, "Oh, yeah, I used to shoot this. I think I still have it." So I went looking through my parents' place, and I found that thing. It was kind of rusty, and the little arm brace didn't really move properly anymore. And anyway, I showed it to him, and I said, "Let's see what they're shooting now. I'll show you what they look like." So got online, and I saw people shooting slingshots with flat bands, and my head exploded. I'm like, "But where are the tubes? How do these work?" I couldn't get it to figure out. But I saw guys shoot long draw, which I'd never seen before. You know, and I was like, whoa, things have changed. Let's see what we could find. And sure enough, I went online. I don't know where I put it, but I went on. Oh, here it is. I went online and I found this thing. This was my first ever video. Was this thing? It's a top archery something pro slingshot.
Yeah,
It's
the
got
good
the
old
dumbest
Amazon
sport tips
special.
you've ever seen. You know, it's got the little fiber optics all the way down for different distance, crosshair on top. And anyway, I ordered this thing for $13. It arrived at my house. And it was just around the time where I was like, you know what? I'm not doing YouTube anymore. I've been on this thing for a bunch of years, and I realized I made a mistake. I had a bushcraft channel before, and I set it up as a business account. And I'm like, oh crap. And I found out that I couldn't get any more than 3,000 subscribers. I hit 3,000, and it was a dead stop. Like I would gain a couple, lose a couple, I'd stay there, and I'm like, okay, is my content just shit, or like what's going on? You know? So I joined up with TubeBuddy. TubeBuddy checked it out, and I sent them an email. I'm like, can you help me? Like, I can't get my channel to grow. I've been on here with you guys for 6 months. Nothing's changed. So I spoke to some guy on the phone. He ended up calling me back. He wanted to do an audit of my channel, and we had like a little talk on the phone. And I explained to him what I did wrong, or he explained to me what I did wrong. And I was kind of like, I'm done. Like, I'm not starting from scratch. I got 300 videos on this channel, and man, like I put so much work into this and I'm never ever going to get any better than this. Like, this is crazy. So I said, okay, I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to switch gears, see if I could do it. I bought that slingshot. I did a video, and I created this channel, and then I posted the video to both channels. Let's see what happens. See if this guy's full of shit, or if I'm really like, oh no. So I waited a year. I completely forgot about this channel. So in 2018, I bought that slingshot, put that video up, and I waited till 2019 when the pandemic hit. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I said, oh, maybe, you know what? I had a lot of fun shooting that slingshot that summer. I burnt through the 2 bands that came with the slingshot, and then I just put it away. Never shot again. Went back onto the channel to check how many views I got. I got 80,000 views on that video. 80,000 in less than a year. It was like, I don't know. It was just, I guess we're just leaning up to Christmas time, and it was like maybe 10 months or something. And I'm like, holy crap! And on my other channel, 450 views. What the hell? I put the tags the same, everything. Like everything was identical. This one got promoted. This one didn't. So I'm like, okay, Adventure Time Outdoors. I'm done. I've put far too much work into this thing. And like everyone was telling me, oh, your videos are great. I don't understand. You should have more views. And that's what I reached out for TubeBuddy. And I was like, dude, you guys are saying that it's supposed to work and it ain't doing shit for my channel. And that's when the guy basically told me what was going on. And then, oh, no. So I started this channel. During the pandemic, I bought 2 slingshots. My first one was a Scout LT and a GZK Hammer Pro. So I got those 2 slingshots. Started shooting videos after this one, obviously. I started shooting those and I was like, oh wow. Oh wow. Things have changed. And I think it's my second or third video I've got down in the bottom where I did a review on the Scout LT out on the ice on the river. I was shooting had it set up just along the shoreline. And I was doing some shooting there with clays. Addicted. I couldn't stop after that.
Dude, I remember that video that you had with the Scout LT and you had the little orange spinners hanging up.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you hit the one, like how excited you were that you hit it. That same feeling is like the driving force behind my love for slingshots. So the thing that I'm doing with Simple Shot now, basically I go to various events and help people, like we set people up with slingshots, teach them how to shoot, show them how to shoot, get them all the proper technique and form. And at the same time, you know, everybody shoots pinch grip, everybody shoots short draw, everybody has their safety glasses, everybody shoots clay, you know, but the point is that we want to get them set up in a safe way. So we want to get everybody success early and often, and we want them to be safe. But as we kind of evolve, you can tell like the people who like are gonna stick with it. Like you can tell the people who are just instantly addicted. And then those type of people will spend a little bit more time with and be like, listen, there's a lot more than just what you're doing right now. Some people like long draw. You can get way more power. Some people like different fork sizes, different fork widths, ones with steel ammo, thicker bands, heavy, you know. A lot of the guys will be like, is this the heaviest band sight you got? And it's like, well, you know, draw weight and speed don't necessarily correlate with slingshots. So that's something that you're going to have to learn kind of what you like and what you don't like. But every time we get somebody who hits that target and they look and they just go, oh my God, I didn't know that these things could be so accurate. And they're hitting like a 12-inch saw blade at like 20 feet, you know?
Yeah.
But you give them that kind of success, that kind of like hooked on feeling where they're just like, their mind's blown. And every time I think about that, I think about that video where you're just hit that spinner and you're just like, oh, I hit it. Oh my God. I'm like, yes.
I couldn't believe it. And that's like a regular for me now, you know?
Yeah. And you just think like if you miss, you're pissed now. So but like that same reaction that people have, man, it's addictive. It hits me right here every time. And I'm just like, oh yes.
I got a few shots like that. I got a few shots and I was lucky enough to catch like 2 of them on camera. One of them, I took my lighter. Where's those? You know those, not those big lighters, but you know those that are cheapy ones you can kind of see through.
Yeah, the clear ones.
More like a square shape. I hit one of those in my catch box in one shot from 20 meters, but I turned it sideways, so I hit the skinny side. I'm like, I'm feeling all confident, you know, because I've been shooting all day long, and I had like good runs, you know, where you're getting like hitting that 30 mil flipper 10, 15 times in a row. And I was like, oh my God, I'm out of control. I'm gonna try something stupid. So I went and I got that lighter. I stuck it in the catch box, marched back to around 20, 22 meters, let it rip, and I got it in one. And I just went ballistic. I couldn't believe it, you know, one shot. And I was like, oh man. And I still get those shots. I still get them every now and then, which is so cool, you know. I nailed one just the other day on one of these squirrel balls. That's a 15 millimeter target round. Okay. I popped that one with the first shot, and it's sitting there swinging like this. And I timed it, and I hit it a second time in a row on camera. I was like, oh man, I went ballistic. I'm still thinking about that shot. It's been like a week and a half already. I love it. Yeah,
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 I feel
it's
like the
funny.
same. I feel like the same when I am out hunting and I hit a squirrel and like there I remember the shot so specifically. I was like maybe 20 yards from a tree and the squirrel was in this like in a fork of a tree and I could hear it and I could see movement, but I couldn't actually see what it was. But I stood there for like a few minutes trying to see if it would like pop its head out or whatever. And you know the sound they make when they're like chewing, like
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, I'm 100% sure that's a squirrel. It's either a squirrel or a chipmunk, and I don't think a chipmunk is going to be 50 feet up a tree. So I was like, okay, well, I I think that that's a squirrel, but as close as I could get was about 20 yards to the tree, and that squirrel had to be 30 feet up there. Uh, it was high, and all I could see was like the little tuft of head fur, and I was like, well, here we go. And I just launched an 11 mil steel, and all I heard was, and then I seen the squirrel fall off the tree in a minute, and I went
Oh,
over and
wow.
I hit that squirrel right off the top of the head,
Oh, game
and
over.
all I could think was like, thank God it was a squirrel, number one, but I could barely see it, and that I lights out that squirrel. I put him out of his misery. First shot, he didn't know anything about it. He didn't suffer not one lick. And I got me a little meal here. And every time I think about that, like I can procure food if I have a tiny little steel ball and a little bit of latex. My ability to put my shot on target is good enough that I know if I go out for a little while, I can get me a meal. Thinking that, that's the same feeling.
Oh, yeah.
That's the same, like, I'm feeding my family type feeling, you know? And I think like those same people who are hitting those targets, when you get that like amped up feeling, that's like primal
Yeah,
because
and a
we
lot of the hunting the people that are anti-hunters out there, they try to make that seem like it's some kind of bloodlust thing, but it's not. You're actually doing something that's very difficult. You're providing food for your family, and it's actually replacing something that we've had removed from our lives.
yeah
That's something that used to be something that would be celebrated. You know, you and I running around in our loincloths, going out to catch a giant pig of some kind. But you bring that home, and you know that your whole village is going to be eaten and be healthy
yeah
for the next little while. That's something that's missing from this society that we live in now. I think. Oh, my thoughts there. I don't want to go too crazy on it there, but I really do think it's something that's missing.
no I agree with you on that. I think that I think what's missing is that feeling of I don't know if it's missing. I think that I don't know if it's purposely absent. I think that it's accidentally absent. So
Oh, agreed, agreed. I don't think it was like an evil plan or anything. You know, I
yeah
think it's just we've kind of graduated onto this. We've been doing this for 50 years, but for 100,000 years before that, we were doing that. It
yeah
still
yeah
lives in
yeah
DNA. You know.
it's that people's lives. So one of the things that I always think about, without getting too political here, is like people have it so easy in the westernized world, in the modern world, that they have to create problems,
No, agreed.
and they're creating problems in a way that they should not be doing. Um, they don't have to suffer very many hardships, so they're going to try to create hardships so that
Yeah.
they have a way to like um build up their self-esteem basically.
Hmm.
And what you're talking about, like that supposed bloodlust or whatever, all that is your self-esteem hitting a high. It's
Yeah.
you creating a situation. You went out there and you did something super challenging, super hard, and you succeeded. And not only are you going to benefit, but other people are going to benefit too. They get to eat.
Yeah.
And you created the situation where I don't have to worry for food right now. But when I go out there and I'm trying to get my own food and procure my own food, it is reaching back to that like primal state that we have, where this used to be something we had to do.
Mhm.
And it was probably to them, it was probably like, finally, it was probably like a weight off their shoulder. And now we don't have that weight off our shoulder because I'm going to go home and eat either way.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just more like, yes, I'm getting back to where we come from. You know, I'm getting back to what we used to have to do, and I'm practicing this, and I'm bringing it with me into the new generations. You know.
Yeah, it's something important, you know. Even with fishing too, it's another thing that's along those lines. You know, you go out, you catch a fish. Doesn't matter if it's a big one or small one. You're always like, yeah, I caught one. You know,
Yes. Yes.
it it,
Yes.
it hits that primal button. I think where a lot of us are neglecting. We'll say, you know,
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
yeah, it's such a good time. Yeah, it'll be pretty cool. I'm hoping that this year I'll be able to get down to a couple of tournaments, or maybe this year or next year anyway. If I get everything sorted, I'll be able to come down because the East Coast tournament's probably the best one for me to go to, distance wise, which is pretty
Yeah.
nice. You know, I don't know enough people in Canada to even start one up here. And I mean, we're so far spread out. I think the only other guy I know of that's from Canada that shoots that I talk to on a regular is Shane MacArthur. But for me to go there, that's like a good 8 hour, 10 hour drive from where he lives. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. That's
there's a couple guys that are like Windsor, Ontario. I think there's a guy that's out there, but even that's like a good probably 7, 8 hour drive, maybe more. Actually, thinking about it.
yeah. It's I think that's one of the reasons right now where like the community is at. So this is like the evolution that I've seen so far in the slingshot world. Um, when I first started, um, we had some bands. I think GZK bands were there. Simple Shot had their bands, and then there was Theraband.
Yeah,
And if I wanted to cheap bands that I could get quickly, I ordered Theraband. And with that, at the time, it was like if you can shoot a 40 millimeter spinner and you're like maybe 50%, you're really really good. You can hit cans from 20 yards, you're really good. Like that was as tough as it was going to be. There were very small tournaments, but mostly people were spread out. It was like nobody really does this. We keep it to our. It was like Fight Club, you know. We keep it to ourselves. We don't talk about it outside.
yeah,
And then just in the last like 5 years, it's grown to a spot where like now we had the slingshot community. They would get together once or twice a year in Pennsylvania, and then maybe somewhere, you know, there was a tournament in Alabama, and then that was it. And then we just waited till the following year to all get together and everything. And now we have YouTube. So the slingshot community found and used YouTube to get like um, meetings,
yeah,
if that makes any sense. And like the chat, that's what the chat is right now. The chat, every time somebody goes live and we're all sitting there chatting, we're all powwowing as a community.
yeah,
We're all talking as a community. We're all hanging out. YouTube, we evolved now from like the sticks and rocks of using a ruler and a roller cutter and marking our bands with pens. And now we have crazy templates and band tying jigs. And we have these people are shooting steel balls with steel balls. Like, and we have YouTube. And YouTube has become like this hub for the community to be like a meeting place where we can meet like every day,
yeah.
basically.
So this has changed everything for me. The starting to when I started doing the lives, I was looking at my analytics on my channel, just trying to see, you know, who watches me, who's my main audience, and it seems to be pretty much split down the middle between the guys in the U.S. and guys in the U.K. I get a lot of love from the UK. I get a lot of love from the guys in the US. And when Rex had asked me if I would go on a live with him, and I was like, yeah, sure, but I had no idea how I was even going to get on live. I'd done a couple of lives before, but going on yourself is one thing. going on with two people. It was like, man, I don't know how to do this. Chuck and Steele and I were trying to figure this out right from the get go. But you were able to go on with somebody else before, then they took it away and then they brought it back. So I was like, okay, how's this going to work now? Am I going to be able to um, go live with somebody? Like, how does it work? And then Rex had sent me the link. It went to my messenger, but I had no idea that that's how he was going to do it. I'd never gone live. So finally, when I figured it out, I'm like, oh, there we go. Let's go live. And I had so much fun on that shoot, seeing everybody chat in the chat and everything. I'm like, okay, this is it. We just took the giant world and we made it tiny. Now everyone
Yes.
can everyone can get around and talk and bounce ideas off of each other, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And
yeah.
it allows like people in the comfort of their own living room or in their own backyard to, get together and do the things that we need to do. So like we're building this base level here. And a lot of people, I don't think they realize what this is going to become. Like, think about like, I always use cornhole as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I've played cornhole for years, decades, right? And you're in your backyard, you're throwing cornhole with your boys and drinking some beers, and then someone somewhere decided to start competing and trying to make it like an official competition. And now it's on ESPN.
Yeah. This is the crazy thing, right? You can watch cornhole on ESPN, but I mean, I'm not trying to take anything away. These people are good at what they do,
Yeah.
But slingshots, we got to follow that step. We got to follow their steps. And how did you get there? Let's do it.
Well, what I'm saying is, I don't think we need ESPN. That even might be dated right now.
Yeah.
What we can do is we can have ESPN just be on YouTube. We can host online competitions. We can host interactive, over the course of, say, so many weeks or months, where people have to, you got to be live so that you can prove it's all happening the right way. But you end up with this opportunity. And I think what slingshots are going to become is one of the first sports from a grassroots perspective that is almost completely online with a few in-person shoots just for fun.
Yeah.
Having the in-person shoots is not essential. It's just an extra.
Mm-hmm.
I think we could legitimately turn this into a sport solely via YouTube, where personal get-togethers are just the extra bonus.
The bonus.
And I think that all these people, like all the people in the chat right now that I'm looking at, Chad, Zach, Robert, yourself, Chuck and Steele, Mikey, I don't want to leave anybody out, but basically all these people who are just on live shooting regularly, they're the founding fathers of the online slingshot shooting sport that we could create easily.
Yeah, I think it would come together pretty easily when you think about it, And I know I did a few of these things on Andy Munn's page with the Grizzly Catapult guys there. Did a few of those challenges a while back, and then all hell broke loose here, and I had to stop shooting for about 3 months. But I'd love to get back to that. That was so much fun. So much fun, but extremely frustrating. I'll be honest. Yeah. You had this one with Polo Mint. I don't know if you ever saw this. They're like a lifesaver. And you had to put 3 of them and get them in as many shots. My 2 practice runs, I went 3 for 3. Hit the live button, took me like 26 shots to get them all. It all fell apart once I hit that live button. I was so angry. Like, you got to be kidding me! I just went for 6 for 6, and here we are. Yeah. And then I had to throw away my catch box. So it was hot that day, and they started to melt inside my catch box, and everything got sticky. I was like, damn it! That's it. You're out of here. Yeah. threw away the catch box. Well, it was
Dude,
fun.
I think that creating that situation will probably be the best situation possible. I see slingshots going in a lot of different directions. I think too, like following the archery model. So like right now in the US, I don't know how it is in Canada because I've never actually looked, but I'm sure that it's similar because I think Canada has a similar attitude towards archery that the US does. But right now, if I wanted to in the United States, every single weekend somewhere relatively close, let's say 5 hours, 6 hours, I could shoot archery somewhere in a competition every weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
And
tons of those things.
whether it's indoor with like a precision type shoot or a 3D type shoot, or just going out hunting, somewhere relatively close to me, probably every single weekend of the year, if I wanted to, I could go join a bunch of people shooting archery somewhere.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I don't think that we have any. I don't think that there's any difference in slingshots that are for the challenges that archery faced to get to that point that we would have to face to get to that point.
Yeah. What do they do in the indoors to control the balls from rolling all over the place? Like I'm assuming that they use like catch boxes or knockdown targets, but what do they do like when the ones hit the ground? Like there must be the knockdowns don't have anything to catch them, right? I'm assuming.
Well, at the few of the tournaments that I've been to, so at the tournaments that I've actually been to, like at East Coast, they have a great big catch box where the knockdowns fall into that.
Oh, okay.
Mostly, sometimes they fall out. It's maybe 1 out of every 10 hits falls out. And you just got to go pick it up. But the way that it's set up, like in China and in other countries, is they just have great big netting, and it's inside of like a gymnasium, and it's
Yeah.
like 8 foot tall or 10 foot tall nets, and real loose, real heavy duty netting, like archery netting, basically.
Yeah.
And the balls just roll all over the floor, and then they have scheduled breaks where people will come by with magnets and pick them all up.
Oh, they just zip. Okay, they zip back and
Yeah.
forth with the magnet
Yeah,
switches.
they have like those
Yeah.
roller magnets that like construction guys use for nails and stuff, and
Yeah.
they roll around and pick up they don't pick every ball, obviously, but they roll by and they pick a bunch of them up, and then they put them into the sorter, so it sorts them.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking of, because like if I was going to start a club out here, I would have to probably do it in an indoor somewhere, most likely a gymnasium or school. But those would have to be picked up before we left. And what's the, like what kind of work goes involved into that? Like I don't want to be, there for 3 hours after when it's time to close up, cleaning up all the balls, right? So
Yeah.
some
So
kid
what I
doesn't
would
pull his groin in gym class or something.
if you if you if you have children at the events and you have those like extendable magnets, you could literally just give those kids each $1. Give them each the magnets and tell them to pick up as many as they can, because I've never seen kids not love to do that for some reason.
Yeah.
They love those extendable magnets where they're just like going and picking up all the steel. At the
Translate
couple of
key. I'll write that one down.
if you be like, hey, everybody gets $1 if you pick up 10 balls, you get $1, whatever. However many, you pick up 100 or whatever, everybody gets $1 if you go pick up a bunch of the balls right now. They just love doing it. Like the kids over at the East Coast tournament, when we call a cold range, they scramble. They scramble
really?
to pick up as many as they can. Yeah, it's crazy. They love doing it.
Oh, nice. That
Um,
would be something to think of, because I think that would be the best way to get that started here, is just start a club somewhere, and
yeah.
I'm sure word of mouth will hit once they start having fun and they're hitting things, and
If you can find an archery club or an archery like outfitter that has practice ranges, you start a club there.
there's There's
If
none
you
near me, not anywhere close.
none,
That's
oh,
none. No,
man,
I got. It's at least it's about an hour drive to the nearest archery store.
damn,
Yeah, and even at there, you're shooting on a property at the guy's house because his store is out of his house, kind of. He's got like
yeah,
a house on the property with a side building, and you've only got like 20 yards to shoot there, and that's it. You know. And he does that just to test clients' bows. So when he fits the bow to you, you go out and shoot. He'll help you sight it in at 20 range, 20 yards, and the
yeah,
rest is for you to figure out. Yeah,
yeah. I think I, that's the toughest part, man. Finding a spot when you don't have one.
yeah,
I think if anybody who's watching or anybody who ends up watching this wants to start a slingshot club, what they should do is go find a local archery club who has a range. Go to them and explain to them how like the similarities. Um, maybe have them like get in touch with Simple Shot or somebody to start carrying some products so that they can make a little money off of it. And then just ask to rent out one evening once a month or something where people can come and shoot, because realistically those archery ranges usually have the type of insurance that's going to cover um, the damage that could occur. And then you're also already shooting ballistics in there, so there's not a whole bunch of difference. um, they might worry a little bit about the windows, which I don't know why people are so damn worried about the windows for slingshots. But I mean, I understand that they can break windows, but like any projectile, like I could punch through a window, so any projectile that you're shooting can also hit a window.
I have to say, windows are tougher than they seem. I was shooting those. I was shooting those little metal flippers,
Yeah,
and I've had a couple of ricochets with those that came back and hit the windows of my house. Made a noise. Nothing broke.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I was like,
I,
fuck, that's crazy.
I mean, if you're really that worried about it, man, then put some of the netting over the window. Like it's
Yeah,
really not that hard of a situation to control. But um, the archery shops being able to rent out like for one night every month, like we just want to get some people shooting slingshots. It'll be part of the club fee. You know, people who are already members won't have to pay anything extra, et cetera, et cetera. And then we'll potentially bring new people into the club. Um, I think that it would take well to that situation. Um, we won't know until we try it, but
yeah, that
paying
might be
some
the way
kids,
to go.
yeah, paying some kids $1 a piece to go pick up the balls and play with the magnets and stuff. Like
Yeah.
the kids love that stuff, man. I have like magnets for each of my kids, and when they want to go pick up the steel, they love doing it.
Oh man, that might be the way to go. Actually, thinking about it now, give the kids a bunch of little sweeper magnets, and here, go to town, boys and
Yeah,
girls. Have a good time.
yeah. Actually, when
Yeah,
we did the Georgia Bushcraft event a couple weeks ago with Simple Shot, there were a few kids that were really taking to the slingshots. Like you could tell that they're gonna want to stick with it. And at the end of the shoot, when we were cleaning up, a couple of the kids came over and they're like, "Oh, we wanted to keep shooting and such and such and such." And Nathan was like, "Well, we're breaking everything down right now, so you can't shoot. But I'll tell you what, any of the balls that you can go pick up right now, you can keep."
oh wow.
And there were kids; they were bringing grocery bags and like trying to get all this. We were shooting the clay only. It was only clay.
Oh really?
Yeah, and they were like scooping grocery bags full of the clay into their. We were like, a lot of that stuff isn't going to work because it's going to get wet or whatever. But what if it
Yeah.
works? It works. So they cleaned it up in no time, man.
That's perfect. And the good thing too with the clays, they're just going to turn into dirt anyway. So
Yeah,
if they stay out there, it's not so bad. I would imagine, one of these tournaments with the shooting the steel ammo though. Whew, I'm sure you wind up having a whole bunch back there.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If it's outdoor though, like the steel's just going to rust away eventually. So
So, some people are worried about it, and I don't see why. I mean, it's an element that's already out there. It's just going to disappear. Yeah, it won't take that long. I've had a whole bunch of them in my backyard that have never made it into the cat's box or had bounce
Yeah.
outs. I never found them, and sometimes I pick up a piece and I'm like, hey, wait a minute, that's actually a steel ball. I've only been shooting 5 years and it's almost gone.
Yeah, yeah.
I can just crunch it up at that point. So
Yeah. Steel, like the steel balls that we shoot, that almost everybody shoots, are just made of a few elemental ingredients. And once
yeah.
they're rusting away, they're just turning back into those elements. So you have,
And really that time it takes for it to get it to start rusting to where it actually starts to pit takes a long time.
yeah,
Once you get to that stage though, it goes quick.
it's
They
dust.
they just start flaking off and big chunks start coming out and it goes
Yeah,
quick. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't worry too much about the steel. I don't think the steel is going to have any negative environmental impact whatsoever. Mostly, I'm worried about trying to recycle the ball so I don't have to buy more. But
Mhm.
beside that, I'm not worried about steel being out there and rusting away. It's carbon and iron and maybe nickel or something like. It's just going
Yeah.
back into it's just becoming the elements that it originally was before it became a steel ball.
Yeah.
The clay, it's just like the perception of the clay, especially around people who don't shoot or who don't know any better. The perception around the clay is just going to be that it's, safe. And
My only concern about the clay is that a lot of those clays that we're getting are coming from other countries. And they're not I don't believe they're kiln fired because if they were, they would be much harder than what they are. And
yeah,
my only concern is you could be importing weird shit like bacterias or
yeah,
diseases for plants or small eggs of some kind of parasite. I don't know. But that's my only concern is they're coming in from other places. And if I can't go to United States or Cuba with a lemon in my bag, but we can bring over their dirt, you
yeah,
know? I'm
that's
just
true.
saying, that would be my only concern. But I think they would have thought of that a long time ago otherwise if it was an issue.
Yeah, I like to think that the people who are making those decisions are smarter than me, but I think time and time again they've proven that they're not.
No,
Um,
I bet you those are just flying right under the radar. And here, take my dirt, Jordan.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So who knows? I think I don't know. I'm just not a fan of the clay for a couple of reasons, and the biggest reason that I'm not a fan of the clay is because they just aren't as accurate
Nope. The
at
sizes
distance.
change, the weights change, they're not perfectly symmetrical. So
This
the
they're sticky too. Like
yeah,
if it's a little bit humid outside, those clays, if you hold a couple in your hand when you're shooting, they get sticky.
yeah, it's
And
gross.
there's no reason it can't stay in the pouch and you get a return to sender.
Yeah,
Steel can get a little sweaty too, but realistically, it's not going to get sticky like the
no,
clay would.
no,
Um,
there'll be no sticking. That's for sure. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. So I don't know. It is what it is. We're going to shoot clay. People are going to shoot clay because of the perception, the relative cost of the clay is cheaper than steel. I know that, and
not
but
really for me. It's about on par up here in Canada. Yeah, you pay about the same.
yeah,
You pay about the same for 8 mil steel as you do for clay.
yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know, man.
it's crazy.
I'm indifferent to it. I don't think that it really makes that big of a difference for people. If they want to shoot clay, shoot clay. If you want to shoot steel, shoot steel. I just think the environmental impact of the steel is not what people think it is, and you're going to have an easier time being more consistent shooting steel.
Yeah, I mean, if we were talking lead shot, I would say okay, I get it. You know, this
I don't
this I
shoot lead
understand.
for that reason.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it either. I was thinking about making some lead shot for hunting stuff, but then I was thinking about okay, I gotta shoot this into my catch box to get used to it. But leads are pretty much a one and done. So like once you've hit it and you put a big dent in it, you don't want to be shooting that same lead again until you've
Right.
grounded it back out, right? So, and I was like, oh man, but then you're just spreading lead all over the place, and it's probably not the best thing, you know. And I had a whole
Yeah.
bunch of old fishing weights that I was going to melt down and use that, but then I was like, you know what? Anyway, I'm going to stay away from that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't think that lead is obviously it's an ideal material for the size compared to the mass.
Yeah.
It does work better if you're going to go hunting with it, but yeah, we know beyond the shadow of a doubt that there's some serious health complications you can get from lead
Yeah.
exposure. So I just don't like lead because shot to shot, no matter how well they're made, they're not going to be as consistent as steel.
Mhm.
But also, I don't want to shoot something that I know is toxic into something I'm going to eat.
Good call. Yeah. Good call.
So I think I'll just stick with the steel. Not to mention the cost. Steel is so much cheaper than lead.
Oh,
Way
way
cheaper than lead.
cheaper. Yeah. Way cheaper.
Yeah, I'll just stick with steel.
Yeah, me too. And to be honest, if you've got like 9.5 millimeter steel going anywhere after, around that 280 mark,
Yeah.
like I don't think the extra weight's needed really.
Yeah, I shoot 11 when I'm hunting. I shoot 11 mil, and I'll use a big 0.7 band with like a 25 to 15 taper, and I get it close to maxed out, man. And I mean, I'm still putting like 230 feet per second on an 11 mil. I'm
Plenty
not
of
worried.
speed.
I'm
No,
not worried.
no.
So,
When
yeah,
you see what that
I
does
can
to
handle
like
that.
a soup can, eh? When you see what that does to a soup can at that speed, it's just
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's all business. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I can punch through like quarter-inch plywood, like good quality quarter-inch plywood. I can put that ball right through it at 10 feet. I can shoot through a soup can, or even if it doesn't go all the way through, like a through and through, it'll crush the can.
yeah.
So like it'll go into one side for sure, but then the can goes 15 feet after you hit it.
Yeah,
You
and it
know that
usually got
that's
like a
damage.
bulging dent, on the outside. Like it didn't go through, but my
Yeah,
goodness, you know? Yeah.
you just know like there's power behind that. So I don't think that having go and if you go from like an 11 millimeter steel, I think they're like 5.8 grams, let's say, or something like that, or they're
I
what
could
is it?
find
Yeah,
out.
I think an
I got
11 millimeter steel is like 5.8, and then
hold on. I got a scale here. I'll weigh one right now.
and I think a 10 millimeter lead is like 6.2 or something. Like there's not a whole
It's
bunch of weight difference anyway.
gonna roll off. I gotta put something on there to keep it still. Here, we'll do this. Zero it up. Yeah, I got 5.61.
No, okay, 5.6.
Yeah.
And like a 10
Yeah.
millimeter lead.
And a 9.5
Should be
is
3.4,
3.6.
3.5, yeah.
Yeah. 3.56 is what I got.
So you're talking about something like 40 plus, like 40 to 55 grains or 60 grains, like
Yeah. Yeah.
traveling 200 some, you're putting hurting on something.
On everything. That's what I'm thinking. When you shoot bigger ammo, you're normally shoot 9.5 or you're an 8 mil guy now?
Oh, I shoot 8 mil,
You're
99% of the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. I sometimes dabble with larger ammo. 9.5 when I'm out busting cans, I like to hit it with a bigger ammo. It just gives it more of
Yeah.
a reaction instead of just poking a hole in it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But whenever I shoot larger ammo, I find it messes with my release a little bit. And what I started doing was that I switched to shooting them with pit locating pouches only.
Yeah.
And
So do I.
yeah, you too, eh? My reason for that was if my pouch is a millimeter thick and I'm going on two sides, this is a 9.5. So we got 11.5 now that I'm holding onto that ball. And I find it kind of cumbersome. The 11 mil steel with a 1 millimeter pouch is even worse, right? We're 13 millimeters wide. And
Yeah.
it's like you're holding on to a giant rock or something. and it was just not comfortable at all. But when I switched to the pit locating pouches, I have those ones from GZK.
Yeah.
The 9.5s and the 11 mil steels actually feel pretty good. But when you actually put it in the pouch and you measure it, like an 11 mil steel goes to like 11 and a half.
Yeah, it's nothing.
It's nothing. And it feels so much better. It feels like a 9.5 in a regular pouch for me. And I don't know, that was kind of like my workaround. But those pit locating pouches for that, man, that's a game changer for anybody shooting bigger ammo, I think.
Yeah, I use the pit pouches. I almost exclusively use pit pouches now, but I think that pit pouches are like a cheat code. They almost always center the ball in the pouch.
Yeah.
And the reason that I use them doesn't have anything to do with how they feel in my hand. It has everything to do with the fact that I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that the ball is properly seated in the pouch. When you're using like even a decently thin, soft microfiber, something that you really have good feel with, you can't always tell if it's perfectly seated in the pouch.
Yeah.
And so you could end up more often having uneven band stretch, and that's going to throw your shot.
Yep.
I think that just having that centered, nice, seated ball in the pouch every single time lends itself to just more consistency. So that's why I shoot it like that. When I'm shooting in like an 11 mil steel, I have great big like the GZK pit pouches. I have a couple of those that I use, and even though it is like you said, it's just like huge holding on there. I know it's centered, so I'm not thinking about whether or not I am holding it properly. You know what I mean? The pinch doesn't change how I'm shooting because I don't know if it's in there right.
Yeah. But that's the thing with the pit locating pouches, with it has those divots where it cups the ball on the top and bottom.
Right.
You're actually shooting almost the same size, which is so nice. And
Yeah.
it winds up being like a flat pinch. It's not like you feel a ball or a point to kind of push it into your finger. It gives you
Yeah.
like a nice flat hold. It's more comfortable. It's an easier release for the bigger ammo. Anyway, for me, it's a win. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I've done it a little bit with the 8mm pit locating pouches. You know, those purple fellas there from GZK.
Yeah.
I still have some of those originally, and they just don't seem to die. They last forever. But being able to pop an ammo in there, and sometimes when you're on your draw, you do like a little as you're moving your elbow up to get your spot. You can do this with your thumb.
Yes.
And that can change your pull. You know,
but you feel it with the pit pouch. You'll know if you're doing it.
exactly. That's the win. You know.
Yeah, I've been using the ones from Simple Shot.
Oh yeah, they all seem to be the same, pretty much the same design.
Yeah, they're like that weird material, except they're a black. Simple Shot has everything black.
And then that super fiber or whatever it's called.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing. I'm sure.
Are they like crazy firm like the GZK ones when you first get them?
No,
or are they a little
start
softer now.
Yeah, they start pretty soft. But I have a couple from Sniper Sling that I got like 3 years ago that are I put tens of thousands of shots through them, and they're so supple that I almost can't use them anymore. It doesn't really feel like they're doing like the pit isn't working properly anymore. The ones from Simple Shot definitely start a little softer, but the material where the ball on the ball side is much less rigid, but the back side is exactly the same thing. So like the part that you're actually holding, it feels like exactly the same material. It's just that the ball side is it feels more like a fake kind of leather. It's hard to describe. It's not like that like hard weird material. I don't know.
Yeah, because I've gotten some that I didn't even know where they came from, but they look like copies of the GZK ones. But the materials that they used was so hard. Like you would fold it around the ball, it would cut the ball nice, but on your fingers where you're holding it, you could feel like the little ridges like cutting into your skin almost. It was like it almost felt like that. Like I'd get like bass thumb after catching a whole bunch of bass. Like you get like that abrasion. I was getting it on my finger from them. I'm like, I can't use these. These are no good. Yeah,
That's rough.
yeah, they were really rough.
Yeah, I think I got like 24 of the ones from Simple Shot, and I probably have about 50 or 60 of those GZK ones right now. Had so many of those, but they last forever. The microfiber material is just indestructible, man. They last forever.
Yeah, I don't know what the difference between that stuff is and the regular microfiber, if it's a process or if they heat it up when they push it together. I don't know exactly what they do with them, but that stuff, whatever it is, it almost feels indestructible. Like
Yeah.
it almost feels like, man, I've never had one break on me. And the ones from GZK were so tight in the beginning. I used to tear my band sometimes trying to stretch them through the holes. So I started putting it on the post and like giving it like everything I got on a pole just to stretch out the hole so I can get the band. Yeah.
Yeah, they're tough, man. These microfiber are tough. I don't like leather. I'm not a fan. I haven't ever been actually a fan of leather. When I first started, the microfiber that existed was cheap.
Yeah.
Maybe cheap isn't the right word, but it felt like it would break.
Yeah, but it ain't like that anymore.
No.
No.
No, it's totally opposite now.
There were some of these there I got from Omega Slings, and I think the first time I ever got one of these microfiber pouches, it was from what are they called? They don't exist. Celtic Caddies.
Oh
They
yeah.
don't exist anymore. But I got one of these pouches from them the first time, and I tried it out. I'm like, you know what? They're actually not bad. Because some of the earlier ones that I got, you would pull on them and then they'd start to fray, and they got kind of weird, like the ones that you get from Wayne at Caddy Shack. Have you ever tried his big red pouches there?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I've done some shooting with those, and they feel good for in the beginning. There, I find them a little bit too thick and big, but
They're super thick.
they were super thick. But when you shoot them after a while, like the back started to like you get like pills on them. I don't know what you call it, like little lumps from the material kind of sliding out of your fingers. Yeah. And I don't know what that is, but they didn't seem to last all that long. And I don't know, they weren't for me. Even the smaller ones you came up with, they were not for me.
Yeah, they're too thick, I think, for me to feel the nuance of the ball.
Yeah.
So I didn't care for that much. That was one of the problems when I first started that microfiber had. If you had ones that lasted, they were super thick. And then if you got the thinner ones, which were nicer to shoot, they didn't last that long. And so leather was the better option because you could get thin leather that lasts forever.
Yeah.
But just in the last few years, the microfiber, I think the first ones that I used that I really liked were from Sniper Sling. And he had these, they were like purple, and the ball side material was like this, like kind of weird textured kind of, it felt like a rough texturing, but it was soft. Yeah. It was like, I don't know how to describe it.
It was soft, but still grippy.
Yeah. And those I still have some of them. I've shot so many shots through them. They last forever. No signs of tearing whatsoever. They're just so supple now that it feels I don't know, it feels like, I don't know what the word is, but they're so soft. They're too soft, basically. I don't think the pits are doing their job anymore.
Oh yeah, that's no more good.
Let this dog in. Come on in, bud.
Damn ATO, you must catch the hell out of bass when I go fit. I do, dude. Especially when bass season opens, I head out there with a good wacky rig, and I lay waste to those little bastards. I really do. I line them up and eat them up. Yeah, it's a good time. I like doing some bass fishing. Yeah, we had a few years back. We rented these boats, and we were fishing just on opening day. And we were going around, and all these guys that we were fishing with in the beginning were fishing with these old school crankbaits and all that stuff. And I pulled out that wacky worm, and they'd never seen them before. They're like, "What the hell are those?" I said, "This is the new deal, buddy. This is like crack for these things. What colors do you use?" I use black, pumpkin and chartreuse, and it's on like Donkey Kong. No way. Out it went, and I just started banging them one after another. They were freaking out. Yeah, I could make some conversions at the end of that day, boy. Plastics, the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah, see, even Chuck and Still here said the original sniper sling ply pouches were the best ever. Dude, I wish that they had the same things right now because I might buy those instead. But those pouches that had that like grippiness to it, but were still real supple to begin with, like they were soft to start. Those were the best pouches that I've ever used. I mean, I haven't ever used anything like that. I think that the new Simple Shot ones are close. They just don't have that same grippiness to the ball side.
On the ball side.
Yeah, it's just a different texturing, but it's probably the same material.
Sniper Sling came up with another one too that was not a pit locating pouch, but it was like a basically like a I guess like an oval shaped pouch, but it looked like it had little fish gills on the side of it. They called it like a something to do with grip or whatever it is. They had some ergo grip or whatever name it was for it, but
Yeah,
they weren't bad at all. I was kind of surprised how well they held for a non pit locating pouch. The little fins.
yeah.
The little fins went over the ball, so it kind of like cupped the ball anyway on either side. So it almost worked like a pit locating pouch a little bit.
Okay.
But they weren't bad. They weren't bad for sure. I got a bunch of Rue and original, but like 30. Woo. I know it sucks though when you get used to a pouch. Like I was shooting those Warrior Mongol pouches for a long time, and then Burke called it quits, and then that was it. They weren't making the pouches anymore. And I was trying to get a hold of some of the blue ones, and I'm like, "Dude, what's going on?" "Oh, I'll let you know when we have some." And then I saw this thing pop up saying that he was taking a break and he hasn't been back since. So I'm assuming that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I never had any of the Warrior pouches, mostly because when they were big, I couldn't have afforded them. And then after I could have afforded them, they stopped making them.
They stopped making them, man. Yeah, I got those blue Warrior pouches, and they lasted. Like I still have some. I have them on frames. They're still around, and it's been like well over a year since he called it quit. So I still got these. I still got these pouches that are still in service. They've had thousands of shots through them, and they're just starting to stretch a little bit. But that's the thing with leather pouches is once you get them good and broke in, they're usually better for a long time. And some of them start to act like a pit locating pouch. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they get like the bulge where the ball was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are good quality leather.
Yeah.
When they'll start to work like that. You see like a lot of the leather ones that just like stretch, so like the center hole gets stretched, but you don't feel like the ball bulge, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the shark gill pouches, the ones I was talking about, Chuck and Steel. Yeah, they were pretty decent.
How are those magnetic pouches? My kids use those. They really like them. The magnetic pouches, because you don't have to grip the ball. You have the little tab behind the ball.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So if you like twist or tweak your grip when you shoot, it doesn't change the
You're not speed
tweak
bumping
of the
pretty much.
pouch. Yeah, exactly.
Ah, cool.
And they can load it really easily. So like when they go to load the ball, a lot of times, especially kids, have a little trouble with like getting it right in there.
Yep.
And they can just put the ball in there and it just hangs out in the pouch. And then they can grip the pouch and shoot like that. So they really like those.
I seen a guy recently, not too long ago. I think he posted a video on, might have been Instagram or Facebook, but he was shooting a slingshot, but with an archery release. The pouch had this funny little tab you can just hook your release onto and just give it a little shot. I'm like, wow, that's I could see that being banned in tournaments.
It is.
It is, eh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so are the magnetic pouches.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, in the WSA rules anyway, obviously if you created a tournament, you could create whatever rules you want, but in the tournaments in the US, like at East Coast, and I know AIM is doing the same thing as the WSA rules, and then the I'm not sure if Hawking Hills has that set up as a rule yet, but basically the WSA rules say that you can't use any mechanical release, you can't use any magnets in the pouch, and you can't use any wrist braces.
Hmm. So what are these guys that are out there shooting like those, what do they call them? Those starships or whatever they're called? I think that's what they're called,
Yeah,
right? Starships. Are
yeah.
are these guys not allowed to shoot these in tournaments?
I'm not sure if you can use any. So they have rules about the size and the length that your slingshot can be too. So you this is funny. Your fork width cannot be any wider than 25 centimeters.
25 centimeters, eh?
That's
Okay.
the cutoff. That's the cutoff, which would be
That's
like
right.
10
It's like a
inches.
foot. Yeah.
And then the length of the slingshot can't be any more than 30 centimeters.
Okay.
So they do have size restrictions on the slingshots, but I can't imagine somebody showing up with a 25 centimeter wide frame.
I'm assuming that they made these rules because some guy ended up showing up with like a staff with a fork at the end and was just planting it and shooting it. You know?
Yeah, I
Um,
guarantee that's why.
yeah. No tripods.
So then, yeah, so that's restrictions for those, and then there are some restrictions for like you can't have lasers, you can't have a scope, you can't have a light at all, or anything that creates light. Um,
But
there
sights
is
are
a
okay, right?
fiber optics are still okay because they aren't like they're just a piece, like they're not a
But like those adjustable sights that GZK has, you know, they're on the little post that go up and down. These are okay.
Yeah, those are fine for use in competition. And then they have two different categories. So they have the regular category of slingshot shooting, and then they have what's called classic. And in the classic category, like you can't even use clips.
Oh boy, it's got to be wrapped and
You're,
tucked.
in the classic category, your slingshot has to be wrapped on, like affixed to the frame via a wrapping of some sort. You can't use fiber optics. It has to be a like a wooden. It can't be even like metal. I don't think. Um, there's like a bunch of rules for that, but we don't. We're not going off that section, so we're just starting with what their typical tournament type is. Where like a fiber optic is okay. You can't have anything mechanical on the slingshot. Like you can't use like two. I mean, what powers the ammo can't be mechanical. So you can't
Mhm.
have like a mechanical release. You can't have springs of any kind or like bow limbs. It has to be just be latex. Um, you can there's rules about you can only have one pellet per shot. So
Oh,
like you can't spray like a shotgun pouch at it.
have you ever
Yeah,
shot one of those? Have you ever
I've
tried?
never no.
Nah, me either. Yeah, there's a part of me is like, ooh, I would kind of want to give it a try and see, but there's that other part of me that's kind of like, I don't know. You got this giant pouch filled with ammo that can like, I don't know, return to sender. I'm thinking that's what it's going to happen with, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't
I
know.
haven't even ever shot darts. I won't do it.
No, I won't do it either. I need my hands for work, and it's just not worth the risk.
Too much. I'm not getting anything. I'm not getting any benefit from it whatsoever.
No.
The
And
benefit to risk ratio is too high.
yeah, I was looking at those little scale mail hand protector things that they were selling to go with them, and I'm like, even at that, I'm like, I don't know, buddy. I don't know.
This is an Axiom X. Who was asking about it? Turtle. This is an Axiom X, and I have this one, and I have a gray one that my wife uses, and we just swapped some of the parts on them. So I put the finger pads on here that are gray and the clips that are gray, and she has the black clips and the black finger pads with the gray frame.
Do you get your wife shooting with you?
Sometimes
Oh, that's amazing. That must
that
be fun.
Axiom X, yeah, it's she's a lot better shot than her practice would suggest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she doesn't practice hardly at all. But man, I have a video of her, where on her first attempt she shot a bottle cap standing on end,
You're kidding.
like a plastic bottle cap. I
Wow.
set it up. I have it on camera. I'm walking with the bottle cap. I set it down. I turn around and walk back to her, and she shot it first shot.
Oh man. Yeah, you got to get her out to the tournaments.
Dude, I'm telling you, she's coming. She's going to
Oh,
compete this year.
oh, cool.
Yeah,
Oh, that's gonna
I'm
be a
going to
lot of
make
fun.
her.
Yeah.
Last year we went to Hocking Hills, and I came back and I was like, "Here's your scorecard." And she was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "You're shooting. You're competing. Signed you up, paid the fee."
Just like that. Surprise.
Yep. And she
Yeah.
was like, "Well, I better go practice."
Oh man. How'd she do? She had a fun time? Or?
Yeah, she had a fun time. I mean, she scored probably, low middle of the pack.
Mhm.
Right where I would expect somebody who practices once a year to shoot.
Yeah.
But
That's
she's been
still
shooting a little
pretty
bit.
good.
Yeah, she's been shooting a little bit more with me. She really likes shooting in the woods. She doesn't like she doesn't like the precision type shots. She really, really enjoys shooting out in the woods, just going and shooting random targets, and she does well with it.
That really is one of the best, most fun ways to shoot too, though, right? You
Yeah.
just get out and you're plinking at pine cones and mushrooms and whatever it is you can find out there. That's a good
Yep.
time. Yeah.
Yep. Just the garbage when we find it.
Oh yeah.
We'll find cans or find bottles out there and shoot the bottles, and we shoot down by like a sort of like a small creek, and it's pretty quick moving at sometimes, and we'll just take like a couple of pieces of stick and throw them out in the creek, and then as they're moving we'll shoot at them.
Oh yeah. That's fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Moving
So we have a
targets.
ton of fun like that.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, you took a seal saying your little girl's going to be fired too. She likes to shoot.
Yeah, I have. So all my kids will like to shoot. I actually got them. So it's a funny story. So we all know that I have my own designs. I make a ton of slingshots. I have HDPE up the wazoo. I have right now. I could probably make 200 slingshots out of the HDPE I have. G10, aluminum, all kinds of stuff. And I've made slingshots for the kids before, thinking that like if they get their own slingshot, that they'll be like, "Oh, it's mine. I want to go shoot it, and I want to do this. I want to do that." And a few years back, I ordered a few slingshots on Amazon to do some reviews on, and have like a slingshot review video from some Amazon stuff. And they were like $15 or $20, and you get two slingshots, and they were like these cheap little, Chinesium made slingshots with
Yeah.
their fiber optics and all the stuff. And my kids liked shooting those. They would not shoot the ones that I made.
Really?
And I was like,
Just to
what
rub
is
it
it?
in a little, eh?
Yeah. I had to be like, guys, what is it about these slingshots that you like? Like, why do you like these and you don't want to shoot the ones that I made? And my middle child was like, I like the fiber optic, like the pin on there, because I have something to aim with. And I'm like, okay. And then I asked my oldest daughter, and she likes the pinch grip. And I don't have like a pinch grip design. And I was like, okay, so you guys like the things that I don't do, basically. It isn't that you don't like them because I made them. It's because I don't make one that you prefer. And then so I just came back from I just came back from Georgia with Simple Shot, and I brought them each a couple of Scout LTs, the new Scout LT2, which we all know, easy to pinch grip, fiber optics, the clamps and everything. They love them. They love them. So they got them, and now they're out there shooting. We're going actually out to the woods today to go practice a little bit. And they got the magnetic pouches now too. So they don't have to worry about fork hitting as much. They don't have to worry about the speed bump as much. So now they want to shoot steel, because before they only wanted to shoot clay. So now they want to shoot steel. Now they want to shoot their Scout LT2s. That now they just love them. So
and they're really nice too, by the way. The redesigned clips, everything that's on there. Good job. Yeah, it's a good job.
The Scout LT was just such a.
To be honest, there was not much wrong. There was not much wrong with the old LT. I've said it many times. It's one of the best production made slingshots ever made.
Yes.
Ever.
Yes.
You know,
the new one is just everything that you would want as an improvement of the original. They did, and the new one is just every little thing that they upgraded is just better. It makes the whole experience that much better.
But what exactly has really changed? I think the fork width is wider though, right? They went up to 95, I think.
So the fork width, as the forks are exactly the same size. The only difference is that the fiber optic sticks up to make it wider.
Okay.
So like when on your axiom, when you swap the clip, you're reducing the fork width necessarily. Yeah. So the actual fork width though on the new one is the same width. It's just that the fiber optic sticks up a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So it went from like 92 or whatever it was originally, and now it's like a 94.5, 95 millimeter with the fiber optic on there.
I just measured mine out. It came out to be like a 91.5 or 91. Not quite 92, but I mean it still shoots great. It's great slingshot.
So basically with the plastic and the fiber optic, you're going to get another mil and a half on each fork tip.
Yeah.
And then they increased the thickness of the fork tips slightly to compensate for the bolt and the depth of the clip. So there's a little bit more thickness here. You probably wouldn't notice it if you didn't put them side by side, though.
Oh, wow. Oh, so it's like a millimeter or two type thing. That's it.
And then the fork width, actually, the actual fork width is wider. So there's a little bit less gap, but you can put a heavier band on there. You can put a thicker band on there.
Yeah.
So whatever the fork width was before.
I usually shoot 22s, and you can see I got a little hangover on the inside.
You know? Yeah, so they increased it like a millimeter, like maybe a millimeter each.
Oh,
so the gap is actually a little smaller on it. But again, it isn't something you would notice unless you put them side by side.
Yeah, you can see it better on the back end. See how I got that little extra junk hanging out?
Yeah. Yep.
You know? I mean,
you probably wouldn't get that anymore.
Just fine, but
the other thing too is, again, unless you put them side by side, you wouldn't notice, but there's a slightly forward sweep to the forks.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So where the center of the handle section is, like in here, it's like more forward just a little bit.
It gives you a more ergonomic feel in the palm, I guess, with the handle.
Yeah, and the palm swells are thicker too. So the new palm swells are much thicker, actually. There's just more positive grip to it. And they have like that
video. I saw Nathan's video he posted. Yeah. He did like a little comparison. He showed them, or maybe it wasn't Nathan. I don't remember, but it's got like a new pattern design on them too, which is pretty nice. And when he turned them sideways, you could see that the palm swell's got like a little belly on it, you know?
Yeah. And they're removable again. So if you, for me, I don't like it with the palm swells. I actually prefer it without. But you can swap them; they're interchangeable. So when I do shoot them with, like, if I want the handle weight in there, if I'm target practicing, I'll just put the old palm swells on the new one because they're thinner. And we're
Oh, lost you there for a second.
Yeah. Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyway, yeah, the I just put the old palm swells on there, so they're interchangeable in those two.
oh, very cool. I'm assuming you've tried the new Torque too.
The Torque X.
Yeah, the Torque X.
Mhm.
Yeah. What's the difference between that one and the other one? I know they changed the tips on that one as well.
The original Torque.
Yeah.
Well, the original Torque is really wide. It's like 98 millimeters or something. The Torque
Yeah.
X is much more narrow. Really, I think there's 30 millimeter fork tips on the original Torque.
Yeah, it was
They're
huge.
they're humongous fork
Yeah.
tips. When that came out, though, latex isn't what it is now. It wasn't what it is now, and a lot of people used a 30 to 20 taper for hunting.
Yeah.
So they wanted to be able to compensate for that. There's also no real easy way to attach looped tubes, and on the OG Torque, they have like the hole with the slot cut in it, so you
Yeah.
can attach loop tubes.
Yeah, I took a little heat. I was talking about that one time and talking about the Torque, but how it was a really cool slingshot. But the clips on it were just like, man, every time I tried to tighten up the clips, they kept on moving. There was so much slop in the hole, and I don't know if you're like me, but I get really anal about how I put my bands on.
Yeah.
Like I'm drawing lines. I want everything to be perfect, and I kept on trying to attach them, and they kept on slipping and kind of moving them around. And I was like, no, these are trash. Awesome
Yeah.
slingshot trash clips. You know?
Yeah, part of the reason for that was because the clips are on like an OEM part, so they're not like meant to be on there. They were like built afterward. And the
Hmm.
forks, if you look at a Torque like this direction, the forks are curved this way.
Yeah.
So if you look at the clip has like a slight curve to it where it attaches to the fork where it would be holding, and it can slide side to side. And then that bolt hole was humongous because the original idea was to be able to fit like Daisy wrist rocket tubes with a ball and tube in
Oh,
those.
okay.
And because they made the hole so big, the bolt that went in there like would have been humongous.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because it wasn't as big as the hole, it would slide around a little bit. But I agree, the Torque with the clips, not a good combination. Just
No.
wrap and tuck. Wrap
I
and
mean,
tuck.
I think it could be. It just needed to be redesigned. Like they should have made a Torque that had an option for tubes, and then made a Torque option that was a OTT. That's it, clipped OTT frame, and reduce the size of that hole, and just put proper clips on it. It would have made a world of difference, I think, on that frame.
Yeah, Nathan told me that the Torque X is one of the least popular frames that they sell.
Really? Wow, I'm kind of surprised because when that first came out, people were going crazy over it. Like, oh, you got to
Yeah.
try it. You got to try it. I watched Can Vandal's video on it. I'm like, man, that looks pretty damn nice. And I was playing
It's
with getting one, but
it's not a bad frame at all. It just isn't that popular in the lineup. It didn't do what they thought it was going to do because the original Torque was really, really popular. But the reason that it was popular is because at the time that it came out, it was really, really novel. You had this like really cool offset to it. People preferred much wider fork tips back then and much wider fork width back then.
yeah,
And it was thin enough that like it really was pocketable for a slingshot. Because like you got to imagine, like the only real flat band slingshots that were like being mass produced was the Scout,
yeah,
and that was one of the least pocketable slingshots on the market.
yeah. It
Honestly,
was
it's
so huge, chunky, eh?
yeah, the
Yeah,
handle is so big and like the forks are really, really thick. That the Torque was the same fork width or a close fork width, but it was thinner, much thinner, so it was easier to pocket, and it just became like this like slingshot community must have, you know. And when they put out the Torque X, they redesigned it to what everybody would like now. They did away with the tube holes. They made the fork tips a little smaller, the fork width a little smaller. They actually made it thicker, even though it doesn't really feel thicker. but it's marginally thicker. But people didn't care for it, I guess. On the whole, it's one of the least popular slingshots that they sell.
There's a few of them that I tried recently. I always forget the name of this one for some reason. It's got a wacky name to it, but see if I have it here. It's another one of Selgin's designs. Here it is. You'll know the name of this. I love shooting this thing.
That's the stylus.
The stylus, yeah. I really, really like it. I was actually kind of surprised because I was looking at some to pick something up, and I was like, you know what? I like it. I can get my hand really close up to the forks.
Hold it upside down. Grab it like this.
Yeah.
That's what it was made for.
That's nuts, eh? Self-defense?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem right. Now I like it even more. Yeah.
That's why it has those strange loops where your fingers go.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I came very close to buying the pro version of this with a clipped one on.
It's really nice, man.
Yeah, but you know what I like about this is how thin it is. That's the win for me. And I was thinking if I get the one with clips, it's just going to make it more chunky on the end again. And I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little bit thicker.
Yeah, I might go that way, but I took this thing out and I was surprised at how nice it shot. Yeah, really nice.
Yeah, I like that one. I really like a thinner frame, like a thinner cross section near the forks.
Yeah.
But the way that I hold, like the way that I typically like to grip onto the slingshot, I like really want a pinky hole there. On the what's the other one that he has? This slant.
Yes.
The slant. It's a little chunkier for sure, but it's got that really nice spot for the pinky hole. So I prefer the slant a little more.
Pinky holes are underrated, eh?
Yeah.
I know it sounds funny, but I got a few frames that I love the pinky hole in, and the Venator is one of them. There's I got a bunch of them that I have with the pinky hole, and it's just badass. Like there's some of them even this one. I don't know if you shot this guy yet with Sniper Sling Thunderbolt.
Mm-mm.
No, it's a little bit of a wider fork, but this is like the grip on it, and there's something to do with the texture of the G10 that's on here. It's not really like overly polished. I don't know if you can really see it or not, but there's a slight texture to it. He got like a nice matte finish on it, but it's like it sticks to your hand. The way it's I don't know. But that pinky hole, I love the pinky hole.
Yeah. What's the fork width on it?
Huh?
What's the fork width on it?
90.
90.
Yeah. They all their production frames used to be 85. And there were 85 and they were a little bit thinner. So whenever I shot them, I always had to release my upper finger because it was always hanging into the hole because the stem of the fork was much thinner. And I didn't like it. I just sitting there hanging into the hole all the time when I was getting ready to shoot or the cup. This one is just slightly less. I just have to lift my finger up a tiny little bit. And I got it clear. I don't have to worry about shooting the tip of my finger off. I've been there before with my Punisher.
I prefer much wider fork tips. Or fork width rather.
You're a 95?
I shoot in the 95 all the way up to 100 mil. I can get on with pretty well.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. The Scout LT2 is about as narrow as I can shoot with my typical short draw.
Oh wow.
When I get to like a longer draw, I like them much more narrow. So like somewhere between like 80 and 85. Which is weird. So like anywhere between about 85 and 92-ish are like in a dead zone for me.
Oh, weird, eh?
Yeah, and actually I like them so thin, I prefer shooting a pickle fork long draw.
Oh wow.
I just like pickle forks in general, but
pickle forks are cool, but they scare the hell out of me. I bought one one day, from Wasp. I took 3 shots with it. I hit the forks 3 times. I tried shooting it short draw. I'm like, nope, this is not going to work. So I went to long draw, and like the 3 times I hit it, Jordan, it was so close to my hand. Like I could literally feel it go like, dink, and just
Yeah.
hit the thing right beside my skin. And I was like, oh man, that was close, you know?
Yeah,
But
you have to get the nuance of the pouch down. So like when I shoot a pickle fork, I pinch here and then I pull my finger down like this.
do a little
So I
speed
have like
bump.
a purposeful speed bump. And then when I release, it's very slight though. And when I
Yeah.
release, instead of releasing with my hand open like that, like when you let it slip out of your hand, I actually just pull my finger like I'm shooting a gun, like a trigger.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
And so
you're purposely doing the speed bump is
when I
basically it.
do that, it bumps it just enough. And yeah, I shoot pickle fork really, really well.
Yeah. I started messing with it for long draw, and that's what I did because I used to try to do I don't know what do you call that, a front grip or whatever it is. I don't know, a palm forward grip, and it
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
working for me. So I ended up pinching the ball behind my fingers, and I shoot like full draw like that.
Mm.
That's not so bad, but man, it's scary. I'm just so afraid I'm going to smash my hand with that thing.
Another thing that will help is if when you shoot, you push your fork forward a little bit. And that puts your hand in the way a little more here.
Yeah,
But the fork forward puts the bands so that they want to like come off the
like a
fork a
lobbing
little bit.
action. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
just a little bit of forward push and that little bit of a tweak when you shoot. But yeah, last year I took 4th place at the Hocking Hills tournament. I shot a pickle fork for all my scoring.
Oh wow. So
Yeah.
pickle forks might be your jam, is what you're saying, eh?
Yeah, I can shoot the heck out of a pickle fork. It just it forced me to pay attention to my form. I wasn't thinking about scoring. I
Hmm.
was trying not to smash my finger.
Yeah. I actually regretted the one that I bought from Wasp. It was in between Simple Shots pickle fork was with the flipping pickle, I think that's what they
Yeah.
call it. And the Wasp one that I got, which I can't even remember the name. But I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get this one. And I was checking what the shipping time was gonna be, and I was able to get it faster from the UK. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just get it from the UK and we'll see how it goes. But now I regret it. I hit those 3 frames. I shot it one at a time, long draw, and I've never shot it again. So anyway,
Yeah,
that's something
I
to
use
follow
like
up.
a slight like I pull a little bit past my face when I shoot a pickle fork. I want the gap there.
Yeah,
And I need the band to be up really close to my eye in order for me to shoot it because the fork width is so narrow. And if I'm anchoring, I don't want to anchor like that by my eye. It feels
yeah,
so awkward to do that. So I just draw it back a little bit further, like maybe shoulder width or something. So
yeah.
it's like
I'll have to
maybe
give that a try again. Maybe I'll
that
get
much
that flipping
extra.
pickle. Oh, mosquitoes already. Wonderful. You know? Maybe I'll end up getting one of those flipping pickles and see if I can get back on back on the pickle fork course.
Yeah,
See how
yeah.
it goes. I don't know. I don't know. It's scary stuff though.
It's
So,
not for
dude,
everyone.
no,
It's
it's
not for
not.
everyone.
No, I guess we're somewhere around 3 hours, dude. I'm sure you probably got some stuff to do there. I don't know if you want to call it quits there. We'll wrap it up.
Well,
I feel like
I
I
don't
could
have
chat with you
anything.
all day, to be honest. But yeah,
Yeah.
time's a
I mean,
bit.
I don't have anything going on, but I understand if you want to wrap it up.
Well, I've only
It's
got
totally
like
up to you, man.
15% left on my phone, so I figure it's probably a good time to call it
Sure,
again. Yeah, but
absolutely.
thanks a lot for doing this, Jordan. It was a lot of fun, buddy.
Oh yeah,
It
oh yeah.
it was great
Anytime
to
you want
actually
to,
chat with you in person. You know, it was the kind of
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah,
Anytime you want to go live, man, just let me know, and I'll do what I can. I'll let you know what kind of schedule I got going on, but I'm
sure.
pretty much free on the weekends typically.
Okay. Well, the next one we should do a little shoot in the backyard. We can
Yeah,
chat and shoot and have some fun. Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
that's it. We can do it on your channel too if you want.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah, anytime. All right, dudes. You guys take care. Stay safe. Get up, practice. Be good to each other. I'll see you again soon. I love you guys. You're freaking awesome. You want to let them out?
That's it. We'll see you next time.
All right. Take care, Jordan. Thanks a lot for doing this. I appreciate you, man.
I'll see you guys.
Yep. Take it easy.